Chapter 2453. As soon as this image appeared, it alarmed all the dragons that had entered the ruins. Every single dragon's eyes turned red, and they were all driven mad by this matter. My God, this is our dragon realm's rare, sacred herb, crimson blood dragon divine herb. An immortal dragon couldn't help but exclaim, "Rumor has it that this sacred herb contains a trace of pure, ancestral dragon bloodline. This kind of bloodline is even more noble than most dragons in the dragon realm. If you consume it, it doesn't matter if you're a pseudo-dragon, a giant dragon, a special dragon, or any other living creature, you'll immediately possess a trace of ancestral dragon bloodline. This is a peerless sacred herb that's rarely seen throughout the ages." Many dragons trembled at the sight of this, and their bodies were shaking. To be honest, the thing that troubled all dragons in the dragon realm was their own bloodline. The richer the ancestral dragon bloodline, the more talented they would be, and the faster they would break through. However, if the bloodline was thin, they would be trash, and they would never be able to break through to the highest realm in their lifetime. Hence, pseudo-dragons were the lowest creatures in the dragon realm. But now it was different. If anyone could obtain this crimson blood dragon divine herb, no matter what kind of dragon they were before, even if they were pseudo-dragon, they would have a chance to become a sacred dragon after consuming it. Obtaining this sacred herb wasn't just like being reborn. Even reaching the heavens in a single step wasn't enough to describe such a change and fortuitous encounter. It was like a beggar on the street suddenly becoming a crown prince of a kingdom. Crimson blood dragon divine herb. I have to get this crimson blood dragon divine herb. I've been trapped in a near ancient realm for who knows how many tens of thousands of years because of the restriction of my bloodline. If I can consume this crimson blood dragon divine herb and improve my dragon bloodline, I won't just become a middle ancient dragon. I'll even have a chance to become a primordial dragon or an invincible dragon. A near ancient dragon couldn't help but tremble. Its eyes were bloodshot, and it wanted nothing more than to take the crimson blood dragon divine herb for itself. Who is that dragon? Why is he so lucky? He just entered the ruins, and he found the crimson blood dragon divine grass? Some dragons wanted to find out the identity of the dragon that obtained the crimson blood dragon divine grass. I know him. This brat is the ancient dragon martial tycoon that has caused an uproar recently. I didn't expect his luck to be this good. He just entered the ruins, and he already obtained the crimson blood dragon divine grass. If he were to consume it, wouldn't that be heaven-defying? A dragon immediately recognized Xia Ping's identity. F***CK. He's just a near ancient dragon. What right does he have to obtain a precious sacred medicine like the crimson blood dragon divine herb? Such a sacred medicine should belong to a middle ancient dragon like me. Whoever dares to snatch it shall die. A middle-aged dragon's eyes turned red, and its killing intent surged. If it could obtain a sacred medicine like the scarlet blood dragon divine grass, it would be willing to kill its entire family. Now that Master Mateto actually obtained this sacred medicine, isn't this courting death? With this kind of strength, what qualifications did they have to compete with them for the peerless scarlet blood dragon divine grass? Yes, find him, find Master Mateto, kill him, and take the crimson blood dragon divine grass. Invisible Dragon Theodore is right. In this universe, the strong survive and the weak die. Without strength, don't even think about keeping the treasure. This crimson blood dragon divine grass belongs to me. Find Master Mateto immediately and cut him into pieces. A treasure like the crimson blood dragon divine grass should not fall into his hands. Many dragons shouted loudly. In order to obtain the famous crimson blood dragon divine grass, they all went completely crazy. They want to know Xia Ping's whereabouts and kill him. And this news quickly spread to the outside world through the virtual network, quickly spreading to all parts of the dragon realm. This news also made many dragons go crazy. What? This is just the beginning, and there's already a dragon who obtained the crimson blood dragon divine grass. Is this a joke? This is a sacred medicine that can enhance the dragon race's bloodline, and it appeared so soon. Hurry, hurry to White Dragon City or the treasures inside the ruins will be taken by the other dragons. At all costs, immediately set up the spatial teleportation matrix. It doesn't matter how many resources are used. In short, we have to get to the ruins as soon as possible. That is the treasure of the invincible dragon, Theodore. The treasures it contains are unimaginable. Even one step late will be a huge loss. In the outside world, countless dragons also went completely crazy. Especially those dragons who were farther away, at all costs, took out many spatial materials, set up a teleportation matrix, and tried to reach the ruins as quickly as possible. And the dragons who were closer to the ruins were even more desperate, madly rushing over. They were no longer leisurely, but with the attitude of desperation. They had never run so fast in their lives. At this moment, on the other hand, Xiaoping put away the crimson blood dragon, Divine Grass. He also saw the virtual image in the sky, and now he was speechless. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but curse. He had originally wanted to get the herb and make a fortune in silence. Who would have thought that the invisible dragon Theodore would do something like this and announce it to the world? How could he hide himself now? Once the news spread, all the dragons in the ruins, and even those outside the ruins, would go crazy and hunt him down. After all, he had learned from the green ox just how beneficial the crimson blood dragon Divine Grass was to dragons. It was a great opportunity to change their lives, and they couldn't possibly give it up. But perhaps this was the invisible dragon Theodore's goal. It was possible to obtain the treasures it left behind, but he had to prove his strength first. Clearly, this was the invisible dragon Theodore's test. He wouldn't let other dragons take away his treasure so easily. Fortunately, the surface area of the ruins was also very large. It could be said to be boundless. Even if the surrounding dragons wanted to find him, it would not be that easy. Adult dragon, can you give me this stock of sacred medicine? Destiny dragon Betty and formless dragon Kalita blinked their beautiful eyes, looking like pugs as they fawned over him. Of course, that's not a problem, as long as you can resist the pursuit of those adult dragons later. Xiaoping smiled. Tui, bad dragon. Hearing this, the faces of the fate dragon Betty and the invisible dragon Kalita darkened. If they really obtained the crimson blood dragon Divine Herb, with their strength, it would not take long for them to be torn apart by the greedy dragons. Those dragons wouldn't care if they were young dragons. Anyone who dared to steal the treasure was an enemy. Of course, if you help me find more treasures, I can give you the crimson blood dragon Divine Grass. Xiaoping's tone changed, giving them hope like a carrot dangling in front of donkey. As long as he had the help of Destiny Dragon Betty and Formless Dragon Kalita, he would be able to plunder more treasures from the ruins. After all, he had already obtained the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass at the beginning. He couldn't imagine what other treasures he would find next. If he obtained enough treasures, it wouldn't be a problem to give them the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass. All right, leave it to us. Hearing this, Destiny Dragon Betty and Formless Dragon Kalita became excited and patted their chests as if they'd been injected with chicken blood. Chapter 2454. But where are we going next? Xiaoping asked. Let me deduce a bit to see if there are any treasures in this ruin. Fate Dragon Betty volunteered. She decided to find more treasures and make a huge contribution. This way, she would have the opportunity to obtain the Scarlet Blood Divine Dragon Grass, which would be of great benefit to her growth. Be careful. I sensed a spatial fluctuation coming from other dragons in the distance. At this time, Invisible Dragon Kalita said, Xiaoping narrowed his eyes and turned to look. His divine sense spread all around, sensing the void. Suddenly, more than a dozen ancient dragons flew over from the distance, each of them emitting a powerful spatial domain power. They approached from afar at an extremely fast speed. However, they didn't seem to know that Xiaoping was here and just happened to pass by. But when these ancient dragons approached, they immediately saw Xiaoping and the others and couldn't help but stare blankly. Then, they seemed to have thought of something and revealed an ecstatic expression. Isn't this Master Potato who obtained the Scarlet Blood Divine Dragon Grass? An ancient dragon was ecstatic, its eyes opened wide. Yes, it's this kid. Even if he turned into ashes, I would still recognize him. The other silver dragon shouted. It was about to go crazy. When it saw Xia Ping, it was as if it had seen a great treasure. It was like a meat pie falling from the sky. Great! Our luck is really too good. We only walked a few steps, and we actually met this Master Potato. This scarlet blood, divine dragon grass, should be ours to obtain. That's right. When luck comes, we can't stop it even if we want to. What kind of dogshit luck do we have? If we get that scarlet blood divine dragon grass, then wouldn't we be rich? Yeah. Even if we don't use it ourselves, we can auction it and earn tens of billions of dragon crystals. Getting rich overnight, this is a one-night explosion. We are completely rich. More than a dozen ancient dragons laughed and were ecstatic. They originally thought that they wouldn't have the chance to meet Master Potato. After all, this ruin was really too big, and meeting Master Potato was an extremely unlikely thing. Perhaps before they could find Master Potato, he would have been killed by other dragons. But who would have thought that their luck was simply heaven-defying? They just walked a few steps and unexpectedly met Master Potato. Brat, hand over the scarlet blood divine dragon grass on you right now. This holy medicine is not something a dragon like you can obtain. Otherwise, you'll die here today. Immediately, one of the silver dragons roared angrily, staring at Xia Ping with a murderous look. This silver dragon was not the only one. The other immemorial dragons also released their powerful auras and sealed off the void, not giving Xia Ping any chance to escape. They had made ample preparations to snatch the crimson blood dragon divine grass from Xia Ping. Oh no! The fate dragon Betty and the formless dragon Kalita both shivered. As young dragons, they had never seen such a scene. They were actually surrounded by a dozen near-ancient dragons. There was no way they could survive. Not to mention that they were just young dragons. Even if they were adults, they might not be able to defeat these near-ancient dragons. After all, these near-ancient dragons were also the best among the dragons. Their bloodline was deep, and they would not necessarily lose to special dragons like them. If you want to snatch my crimson blood divine dragon grass, then let's see if you have the ability. If you don't have the ability, then get lost. Otherwise, if you die here, it will be useless even if you call your parents. Xia Ping stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were very indifferent. He simply did not put these near-ancient dragons in his eyes. Master Potato, don't be too insolent. That's right. Even if you're the champion of this martial arts competition, so what? We have more than a dozen near-ancient dragons here. Are you really our opponent? This brat won't shed tears until he sees the coffin. Let's destroy his prestige first. If we don't beat him until he cries for his parents, he won't know what death is. There is no need to talk nonsense with him. More than a dozen near-ancient dragons roared angrily, and they immediately attacked. Rumble. In an instant, these near-ancient dragons immediately displayed the space domain. There was the boundless ocean domain, which seemed to turn into a boundless ocean world. Every drop of water weighed as much as 1,000 pounds, and it was enough to crush a small world. There was the flame domain, which seemed to turn into a boundless sea of fire, communicating with the dimension of fire. Moreover, it was not an ordinary flame, but the famous dragon flame of the dragon clan. There was the cold ice domain, which seemed to turn into a world of ice and snow at this moment. The temperature reached absolute zero, and it seemed to completely freeze this space. More than a dozen space domains, like the projection of more than a dozen space worlds, constantly superimposed, and it seemed to completely suppress this void, leaving no place to escape. Even an ordinary Middle Ancient dragon had to be cautious in the face of such power. Bell of Chaos. How could Xia Ping talk nonsense with this group of near-ancient dragons? If he continued to fight, he might attract other dragons. Therefore, he attacked with a killing move, not giving these near-ancient dragons any chance to resist. Suddenly, an ancient giant bell filled with chaotic airflow appeared above his head, emitting a strong, chaotic airflow. It seemed to be filled with a powerful, chaotic domain, distorting time and space. It gently swayed above Xia Ping's head, and it constantly shook. Supreme magical ability, soul disorientation. Clang, clang, clang. Immediately, waves of special sound waves were emitted from the Bell of Chaos. With the Bell of Chaos as the center, the space within a radius of billions of miles was surrounded by this mysterious and unique sound wave. This seemed to be an ancient sound from the chaotic era, like the whisper of an ancient god, like the thunder at the beginning of the chaos, or like the howl of a demon god in the depths of hell. It could be said that these waves were supreme soul waves. Not to mention the space domain, even the space-time domain could not resist the erosion of the powerful soul waves of the soul disorientation. Vaguely, these waves seemed to contain powerful nomological power and fluctuations. They permeated time and space, causing the nomological laws of the universe to resonate and buzz. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the dozen or so near-ancient dragons did not expect such a thing to happen. It was as if their heads had been struck by lightning, as if someone had hit them hard, and they immediately saw stars. Even their souls and spirits seemed to have been scattered, and they temporarily lost consciousness. Even the dozen or so space domains were shattered because of this. The near-ancient dragons stood dumbfounded on the spot, not knowing what had happened. Six-path sealing technique. How could Xia Ping let go of such an opportunity? He grabbed with his hand and immediately captured these dozen or so near-ancient dragons. Then he used the six-path sealing technique to completely seal the power of these near-ancient dragons. Then he captured these near-ancient dragons into the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers as coolies. They could probably only be slaves in the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers for the rest of their lives, without any chance of leaving. Chapter 2455. Cool, too cool. Seeing this scene, the fate dragon Betty and the formless dragon Kalita looked at Xia Ping with admiration. Then, they looked at the Bell of Chaos above Xia Ping's head with envy. That was because the moment he used it, it could beat the insufferably arrogant dragons to the point where they couldn't even fight back. One could imagine how powerful it was. They were so envious that they drooled. As dragons, their nature to collect treasures was revealed. Invisible dragon Kalita blinked her beautiful eyes and suggested, "Adult dragon, what kind of treasure is this? Can you give it to me? I don't want the crimson blood dragon divine grass anymore. Give me this treasure." She felt that if she had this treasure and her innate ability to hide in the void, then suddenly appear and smash the enemy with the Bell of Chaos, wouldn't she be able to win in minutes? In this world, which dragon could be a match for her? The great invisible dragon Kalita? At that time, she would be able to obtain any treasure she wanted, and she would be invincible. Don't even think about it. This is my life treasure, Xia Ping said in annoyance. He reached out and knocked invisible dragon Kalita's head. She still wanted her life treasure, the Bell of Chaos? Wasn't this nonsense? That was a good idea. Damn it. Invisible dragon Kalita was so angry that her teeth itched. She had never been knocked on the head like this in her life. As an invisible dragon, her concealment ability was unparalleled. If she wanted to hide, she could hide. If she wanted to escape, she could escape. No dragon could find her. However, she just had to meet her nemesis, Xia Ping. He could always find her traces. Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and find the next treasure. There are treasures everywhere. Don't let the other dragons take them. Xia Ping urged Fate Dragon Betty to hurry up and get to work. Hee, squeezing young dragons. Shameless adult dragons. Fate Dragon Betty spat. However, she was also very interested in the various treasures in the ruins. If it was just her, even if she could find the specific location of the treasure, she didn't have the strength to take it away. Even if they really took it away, there was no way they could keep it. Only by relying on Xia Ping, the adult dragon, and their combination of swords could they be invincible in this relic. Right, let's head in this direction, northeast. There should be some good treasures there. I have a strong feeling that they might be even better than the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass. Fate Dragon Betty closed her eyes, then suddenly opened them and shouted excitedly, "Is there such a thing? Then let's hurry over." Xiaoping immediately hugged the fate dragon Betty and the formless dragon Kalita and instantly left, heading in the direction that Betty had pointed. He trusted Betty's fate power. Perhaps this was similar to the Khanate Dharma treasure that he had obtained, the Compass of Wishes. After a day, under the guidance of the Dragon of Destiny, Betty, Xiaoping finally arrived at a remote valley. Because he had been very careful along the way, hiding his figure, no other dragons came to find trouble with him. That's right, this is the valley. There must be treasures in this place. The fate dragon Betty said confidently. Interesting, then let me see what treasures there are here. Xiaoping found that there was nothing in this valley. It was probably the same as the crimson blood dragon divine grass, which had long been covered by the restrictive formations here. He used the Hell Golden Crow's eye, and the whole world immediately changed. Void formations appeared in the surroundings, as though they were hidden in the depths of space-time. In the center of the valley, in the depths of the layers of restrictive formations, there was a transparent flower the size of a palm. It was covered with dense nomological lines, as though it had merged with the surrounding void, emitting an extremely mysterious aura. If one continued to look deeper, there seemed to be countless planets in the depths of the flower, as though it contained a universe. Countless stars were rotating on their own. Even in the depths of these planets, there were many birds and beasts, as well as mountains, rivers, deserts, mountains, seas, and other natural environments. Below the flower, there were emerald green leaves. These leaves were also very unusual, as though they contained a small plain world, emitting a chaotic aura. The more one looked at it, the more one found that the transparent flower contained endless mysteries. It was unfathomable, as though even one soul would completely fall into the depths of this vortex. Oh my God, Master, this is the flower of enlightenment, a rare, sacred medicine in the universe, the flower of enlightenment. We're rich, we're really rich this time. Seeing this scene, the green bull had completely gone crazy, unable to conceal the shock and ecstasy in the depths of his heart, as though he could not believe what his eyes were seeing. No way. This is the flower of enlightenment. Hearing this, Xiaoping could not help but tremble. The flower of enlightenment was known as one of the most precious sacred medicines in the universe. It was not cultivated, but a miraculous flower born in the universe. Only in the densest origin of the universe, coupled with the interweaving of countless cosmic laws, could such a wonderful cosmic flower be born, the flower of enlightenment. It was known as a peerless sacred medicine that gathered the essence of the universe and the laws of the heavenly Tao. Its flowers contained all the cosmic laws, and its leaves were like plain worlds, containing the 6 paths of reincarnation, endlessly multiplying. Its function was also very simple. It could help sages comprehend the Tao. As long as one consumed this flower, they would immediately comprehend all the complete laws of the universe, comprehend the information of the great Tao, and obtain endless benefits. If a near ancient sage comprehended the Tao, he would be able to comprehend the laws of time and become a middle ancient sage. If a middle ancient sage comprehended the Tao, he would be able to comprehend the laws of creation and become an ancient sage. Even the flower of enlightenment had a great effect on ancient sages, primordial sages, and invincible sages. It was as though one had become the illegitimate child of the heavenly Tao and obtained the opportunity to comprehend the heavenly Tao. The laws of space-time, creation, world, and life and death that one normally could not comprehend could be easily comprehended under the effect of the flower of enlightenment. There was once a primordial sage who was stuck at this bottleneck for countless eras, but after consuming a flower of enlightenment, he immediately became an invincible sage. One could imagine how precious the flower of enlightenment was. Once it appeared, it would cause a bloodbath in the entire universe. Back then, Old Master also wanted to find a flower of enlightenment in an attempt to break through to the primordial sage level. Unfortunately, this kind of cosmic flower is extremely rare and only appears once every billions of years. The green ox's body was trembling. I didn't expect to see a flower of enlightenment here. Master, You must snatch this flower of enlightenment. This is the foundation of achieving the Tao. Any price is worth it. Chapter 2456. Break. Xiaoping formed a seal with both hands and lightly pointed at the void. Although the formations around the flower of enlightenment were more than 10 times stronger than the crimson blood dragon divine grass, it was nothing to him who had the golden crow's eye of hell. He had long seen through the weaknesses of these restrictive formations, and he was like a hot knife through butter. Boom! With the point of his finger, all the formations in the vicinity were instantly shattered. The entire valley was immediately restored to its original state, and the flower of enlightenment appeared in front of him. It really is the flower of enlightenment. Xiaoping's pupils shrank as he looked at the flower growing in front of him. When he looked at the transparent flower, he felt as if he could see the countless laws of the universe, the boundless abyss, and the heavenly Tao of the universe. Just looking at the flower of enlightenment itself seemed to have touched him. If he consumed it, it would probably be thousands of times easier to comprehend the laws of the universe than before. This flower of enlightenment belongs to me now. Without another word, he waved his hand and immediately put the flower of enlightenment into the space of the pearl of mountains and rivers. Boom! At this time, the entire ruins trembled again. It seemed that Xiaoping's act of plucking the flower of enlightenment had once again alarmed the invisible dragon Theodore's virtual impression of this place. Suddenly, all the dragons in the ruins could see Theodore's figure appear in the sky. Haha, I didn't think that a junior would be able to find one of the most precious treasures that I left in the outer perimeter of my abode, the flower of enlightenment. This is truly worthy of celebration. I hope you have the strength to protect this treasure of the world. Theodore's voice rang out, and he laughed heartily. At this moment, the figure of Xiaoping plucking the flower of enlightenment once again appeared in the eyes of countless dragons. Damn, it's this Master Mateto again. Just how many treasures did he take? I've been looking for a whole day, but why haven't I found any treasures? Some dragons cursed, half dead with anger. Master Mateto was clearly picking up treasures as if they were trash, but they searched for a whole day and found nothing. Didn't they say that the ruins were filled with treasures? Why couldn't they find any treasures? Was this discrimination? Wait, look at the holy medicine in Master Mateto's hand. Why do I feel that it's very unusual, but I'm not very clear about what it is? One of the dragons looked at the holy herb that Xiaoping had plucked away in confusion. However, it could not recognize what kind of holy herb it was. After all, a treasure like the flower of enlightenment was simply too rare. It would only appear once in a trillion epochs. Even the sages had never seen it before. Only the most knowledgeable dragons would know about it. It was normal that most dragons did not know about the flower of enlightenment. However, there were many knowledgeable dragons among them. Suddenly, an ancient dragon couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my God, this is enlightenment flower. This is the famous enlightenment flower. This is a rare treasure of the universe. How can Master Mateto get it? This is too unfair." Its eyes turned green as it watched. It was pounding its feet and pounding its chest in regret. What are enlightenment flowers? Many dragons asked. Some of them even searched on the virtual network. After all, there were encyclopedias everywhere on the network. If they didn't understand anything, they could just look it up. Very quickly, many dragons knew the true meaning and use of the flower of enlightenment. Their eyes immediately turned red, just like a monkey's, but it can actually help the sages understand the laws of the universe and let them reach the enlightenment realm. This is such a precious and mysterious holy medicine. If I consume it, won't I be able to advance from the middle ancient realm to the immemorial ancient realm and understand the laws of creation? Some ancient dragons couldn't help but tremble. What a joke. It would be a waste if only middle immemorial dragons were to consume it. If primordial dragons were to consume it, they would have a 50% chance of advancing to the invincible dragon realm. That is how the enlightenment flower should be used. Some dragons said in a low voice. Hearing this, many dragons were shocked. The invincible dragon wasn't just in the dragon world. Even in the entire universe, They were supreme existences that stood at the peak of all living beings. That was the true invincible realm. Even if the other sages banded together, they wouldn't be a match for an invincible sage. They would have an overwhelming advantage. Even with the current strength of the dragon race, the number of invincible realm dragons could be counted on one's fingers. Moreover, it was the number from ancient times until now. One could see how difficult it was to advance to the invincible realm. If ancient dragons knew of the existence of the Flower of Enlightenment, they would definitely swarm over and snatch the Flower of Enlightenment. Not only is it useful for ancient dragons, but it is also very useful for invincible dragons. Although it can't help invincible dragons break through, it can still be used to gain a lot of benefits. It will also deepen their understanding of the laws of the universe. If it's possible, invincible dragons might even want it. Some dragons expressed that the Flower of Enlightenment was also very beneficial for invincible realm dragons. Snatch the Flower of Enlightenment. We must snatch the Flower of Enlightenment from Master Mateto. This is a true holy medicine that can help one attain enlightenment. Whoever gets it will be able to reach the heavens in one step. Some dragons roared angrily. Their eyes were red and revealed a greedy expression. First, it was the crimson blood dragon, Divine Herb, then the Flower of Enlightenment. How many treasures did this kid get? If we can kill Master Mateto, all these treasures will be ours. Many dragons wanted to kill Xiaoping. They couldn't wait to get rid of the kid and snatch the Flower of Enlightenment and the crimson blood dragon, Divine Herb. If Xiaoping's crimson blood dragon, Divine Herb, had caused a huge sensation before, then the appearance of the Flower of Enlightenment had directly ignited the emotions of all the dragons in the ruins. They must find Xiaoping's location as soon as possible at all costs. If they killed this kid, they would be able to obtain the two peerless holy medicines of the past and present. In fact, it wasn't just the dragons in the ruins that went crazy. In fact, even some of the old antiques in the Dragon God Shrine were completely shocked by the news and woke up from their slumber. The Flower of Enlightenment has actually appeared. I didn't expect Invisible Dragon Theodore to really get a Flower of Enlightenment. This is really incredible. No matter what, we must get the Flower of Enlightenment. If we take it, we will have a 70% chance of advancing to the invincible realm and comprehending the laws of life and death. We will be invincible. That's right. The Flower of Enlightenment must be ours. That ancient martial dragon is too weak. He's not qualified to get the Flower of Enlightenment. Many great dragon ancestors discussed among themselves, their eyes filled with greed. Although they couldn't enter the ruins due to their limited strength, they could still wait outside the door. That way, no matter how many treasures the dragons obtained, they could only stay here. Chapter 2457. For a moment, all the dragons in the ruins were in a frenzy. They searched everywhere for traces of Xiaoping, and they could even log into the virtual network to communicate with each other. It was obvious that they had set up an inescapable net everywhere. If any trace of Xiaoping was found, all the dragons would immediately find out. What should we do? That invisible dragon Theodore is too evil. If he leaked the news of us obtaining the Enlightenment Flower, everyone will come after us. At this moment, Xiaoping, Betty, and invisible dragon Kalita were hiding in a valley. They used the invisible dragon's concealment power to hide themselves, and all the dragon's divine senses couldn't find them. However, Betty was so scared that her face turned green when she saw so many adult dragons looking for her. Even though she was a dragon proficient in fate, she couldn't withstand such an overwhelming encirclement. Why don't we run away and leave the ruins? We have enough sacred herbs anyway, Invisible Dragon Kalita said guiltily. Invisible Dragon Kalita said with a guilty conscience. She was only a young dragon, so she was naturally scared to death. Moreover, the formless energy on her body was not effective at all times. She could not hide it at all times. Furthermore, if the ancient dragon's space-time domain shrouded her, it would distort time and space. Even if the ancient dragon's space-time domain shrouded her, she would still be found, so she felt very guilty. Run? Where can we go? The Enlightenment Flower is a treasure that even the ancient dragons covet. We'll probably be caught as soon as we go out. How can we run? Xia Ping said disdainfully. To be honest, this ruins was the safest place to be, because the dragons that could enter the ruins were at most ancient dragons. The ancient dragons couldn't enter at all, and could only look at it enviously. If he went out now, he would immediately be caught by the ancient dragons and ask for the enlightenment flower. After all, the temptation of advancing to the invincible realm was too great for them. Even if the Dragon God Shrine had a rule that dragons couldn't kill each other, there was no guarantee that no dragons wouldn't kill each other. In fact, before he got the enlightenment flower, he knew that this matter would definitely cause a stir in the entire dragon realm. Therefore, Xia Ping had informed Yi Ming Yao, who was staying in White Dragon City, through the virtual network, and told her to quickly leave the city with the young dragons, hide their identities, and go to the wilderness to stay away from this whirlpool for a while. Moreover, he had left his golden crow of hell cloned by Yi Ming Yao's side. Its strength was near the ancient realm, so he didn't have to worry about Yi Ming Yao's safety. He had made this decision because he was worried that the ancient dragons might do something desperate and attack Yi Ming Yao and the others, so he was fully prepared. As for the business in the dragon realm, it was likely to be ruined. However, this was not a big deal. Just one enlightenment flower was worth hundreds of billions of dragon crystals. This was because such a treasure was not something that could be bought with money. Even if some sages used peerless saint artifacts to exchange for it, there might not be any sages willing to exchange for it. The adult dragon is right. I can sense danger at every step outside the ruins. Only by staying inside the ruins will I have a chance of survival. I can sense danger at every step outside the ruins. Staying inside the ruins gives us a chance of survival. Betty couldn't help but nod. After hearing Xia Ping's words, she seemed to sense the only way out of the countless paths of fate. Only by staying in the ruins would they be able to turn misfortune into fortune. That's good. Hearing this, the invisible dragon Kalita couldn't help but feel relieved. If it was Betty who said this, it would be very convincing. The situation after leaving the ruins wouldn't be much better. Looks like after this trip to the ruins, I'll have to escape from the dragon realm and lie low. Xia Ping rubbed his chin. He wasn't worried that he would be targeted by the ancient dragons. That was because he had the ancient heavenly dragon talisman. If there was an emergency, he could leave the dragon realm at any time. Even the invincible dragons might not be able to catch up to him. Therefore, he was already in an invincible position and didn't need to worry about his own safety. Several days later, inside the ruins, dragons found all sorts of sacred herbs and even sacred artifacts from time to time. At the same time, the invisible dragon Theodore would also broadcast the images to the world. This also caused countless dragons to fight and kill each other. It was extremely tragic. However, even if these dragons obtained so many sacred herbs and treasures, the enlightenment flower that Xia Ping obtained was still ranked first among all the sacred herbs. Countless dragons yearned for it. After all, this was a sacred herb that was known as the flower of enlightenment. Even the ancient dragons coveted it. In fact, many ancient dragons had secretly issued orders for the dragons who entered to get the enlightenment flower from Master Mateto at all costs. There were also ancient dragons who tried to contact Master Mateto, hoping to trade the enlightenment flower, but so far, they couldn't contact Master Mateto. They didn't even meet him. Damn it, where is Master Mateto hiding? Why can't we find any trace of him after searching for a few days? Yeah, it's really weird. In fact, it's not just us who didn't find him. The other brothers also didn't find him. He can hide better than a mouse. I really admire him. Isn't that so? I don't know what means he used to do this. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, we have a lot of time. He hasn't left the ruins and is still staying in this place. One day, his traces will be exposed. When that time comes, it will be his death. At this time, in a forest, 5 or 6 ancient dragons were discussing. They gnashed their teeth, wanting to find Xia Ping's traces and obtain the enlightenment flower and crimson blood dragon divine grass from him. But so far, they couldn't find any trace of Xia Ping, which made them feel discouraged. But what they didn't know was that in a place not far from them, in a small mountain, Xiaoping and Betty were hiding with the power of the invisible dragon Kalita, not leaking any aura. Damn it, this group of adult dragons are just like vicious dogs, chasing us relentlessly, making us unable to find new treasures for a few days. Destiny Dragon Betty bared her teeth, feeling very angry. Originally, she sensed that there were many treasures nearby and tried to let Xiaoping find them, but she found that there were many ancient dragons looking for her in the surroundings, so she gave up. In the end, they could only hide for a few days and didn't get any treasures. Still hiding, this group of ancient dragons searched everywhere for my traces and even wanted to kill us. Do they really think I don't have a temper? Forget it, don't hide anymore. Let's go on a killing spree and kill all these ancient dragons. Xiaoping's eyes revealed a trace of ominous glint. Adult dragons. Fate Dragon Betty and Formless Dragon Kalita looked at Xiaoping with admiration. You two little things hide here and don't move. Wait for me to kill this group of ancient dragons. Xiaoping's figure flashed and immediately jumped through space, flying over. Chapter 2458. What dragon? At this time, the 6 ancient dragons were very sensitive and immediately noticed a slight spatial fluctuation in the void. They shouted, and at the same time, their space-time domain was activated. Immediately, Xiaoping's figure appeared in front of the group of ancient dragons. Master Mateto, one of the ancient dragons, couldn't help but shout when he saw Xiaoping's appearance. It's really easy to travel to the ends of the earth to find you. I didn't expect to find you in this place. These ancient dragons were simply ecstatic and excited. They originally thought that they had no chance to find Master Mateto and get the enlightenment flower, but who would have thought that they actually found Master Mateto in this forest? This was simply a meat pie falling from the sky. Kill him. The 5 ancient dragons didn't talk nonsense at all. They looked at each other and very tacitly, their space-time domain instantly crushed down, sealing the void for billions of miles. Vaguely, 5 space-time domains intertwined with each other, as if distorting space-time. Any space-time law in this place became invalid, as if it had turned into an absolute domain. They not only wanted to prevent Master Mateto from leaving, but also to prevent this news from leaking out. Otherwise, if other dragons swarmed over, they wouldn't have a share. At that time, the news of them obtaining the enlightenment flower might leak out, and like Master Mateto, they would become the target of public criticism. At that time, they were afraid that they would be miserable. Morning staff. Xiaoping didn't even look at it. He took out the Helm Magic Treasure Morning Staff from his body. With just a light shake, a powerful space-time domain gushed out from his body and instantly tore this void. His current space-time domain was so powerful that it was simply hair-raising. It was like the embryonic form of a world. Even the space-time domain of these ancient dragons couldn't control him. Therefore, he operated the space-time domain and instantly broke free from the bondage of the ancient dragon's space-time domain. Dong! Holding the morning staff in his hand, he instilled a huge amount of magical power into his body and gently knocked at the 6 ancient dragons. Soul subduing 5 styles. First style, dizziness. Vaguely, with the morning staff as the center, the void within billions of miles produced a burst of strange vibration. It was as if gods and demons were wailing and howling. In the depths of the void, there was a demon god crying. Ring after ring of strange soul fluctuations spread out in all directions, creating many ripples in the void. These ripples condensed into substance and could even be seen by the naked eye. However, even the space-time domain could not stop these soul fluctuations. They instantly bombarded the bodies of the 6 primordial dragons. Damn it, what kind of power is this? Our space-time domain is actually unable to restrain it. Not good. I have a bad feeling about this. Hurry up and dodge. This power contains the fluctuations of a soul attack. Damn Master Mateto, where did he get such a magic weapon? The hairs of these middle ancient dragons stood on end. Their many years of battle instincts were warning them that they had to dodge as soon as possible. Otherwise, None of them would be able to escape if they were hit by this power. However, it was already too late. The power and speed of the morning cudgel was so fast that it was not something they could imagine. As soon as the morning cudgel struck down, the power of the soul shock had already affected the bodies of the 6 middle ancient dragons. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, the primordial dragons felt as if their heads had been hit by a huge stick. They were dizzy and saw stars. They lost their consciousness for a short period of time, and their bodies stiffened. Kill World Touch. Xiaoping instantly communicated with the world tree in the depths of his sea of consciousness. Swish, swish, swish. The roots of the world tree stretched out from the depths of the void and tore through the void like god-killing spears. They silently pierced the bodies of the 6 middle ancient dragons. With a loud bang, the 6 middle ancient dragons let out miserable screams. After being attacked by the world tree, their souls were instantly torn apart. Even with the powerful bodies of the dragon race, it was impossible for them to resist the attack of the world tree. Devour. The next second, with a thought from Xiaoping, the world tree immediately produced an extremely powerful devouring power. The corpses of the 6 middle ancient dragons also shriveled at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seemed that the flesh and blood energy of these middle ancient dragons were completely devoured in just a few breaths' time. Next, on the branches of the world tree, due to the devouring of the energy of these middle ancient dragons, 6-time fruits condensed. Dense lines of the law of time immediately appeared on the surface of the fruits. These lines of the law of time intertwined with each other and seemed to form a rune that looked like a clock. Time fruits. Xiaoping clenched his fists, feeling very excited. The reason why he didn't capture them and instead chose to kill them was not only because they wanted to kill him, but also because he was at a critical juncture. At the same time, it was also because he was at a critical juncture and needed a large number of time fruits to comprehend the power of the laws of time. That was why he had killed them all and refined them into time fruits. This way, he would have enough energy and power to break through to the Middle Ancient realm and comprehend the law of time. Boom! However, at this moment, the void trembled. After he killed the 6 Middle Ancient dragons, a black hole immediately formed and a transparent token fell from the void. What is this? Xiaoping blinked his eyes. He was very curious and couldn't help but pick it up. Immediately, he felt that his mind immediately formed an inexplicable connection with the token. Even his aura had merged with the entire cave dwelling in the ruins. This is the invisible token, the token that allows me to enter the core area of the cave ruins. Xiaoping immediately received a huge amount of information from the token, and his eyes shone brightly. He had been searching for treasures in the outskirts of the cave ruins. The true core area was hidden in the depths of the void, in another dimension that no one could enter. Even so, he had already obtained so many treasures in the outskirts. If he entered the core area, where the invisible dragon Theodore's true treasures were, wouldn't the treasures be heaven-defying? Bang! But at this moment, the invisible dragon Theodore's figure appeared once more, its arrogant voice sounding out. Ah, what a pleasant surprise. I didn't think a dragon would receive my invisible token so quickly. Just how many dragons did he kill? Just how vicious and evil of a dragon did he have to be able to do something like this? I'm so excited. Its joyful voice spread throughout the entire cave abode and was heard by every single dragon. Damn it! What is the invisible dragon Theodore trying to do? Xiaoping instinctively felt that the invisible dragon Theodore's evil thoughts were that the invisible token in his hand wasn't anything good, but a hot potato. Chapter 2459. Just as Xiaoping had expected, Theodore spoke again. But don't celebrate too early, evil dragon. It's just a pass to enter my core residence. You'll have to prove your strength if you want to enter my residence. Only a truly invincible dragon has the right to inherit all of my treasures. Next, the dragon with the invisible token would have to survive for a full month. The dragon with the invisible token would reveal its location once a day, and each time it would reveal its location for an hour. The dragon with the invisible token would be hunted down by all the other dragons. Any dragon that killed the dragon with the invisible token would have the right to enter its core cave abode. Of course, you can give up your invisible medallion if you think you're no match for me and wish to live. However, giving up once means you've completely lost the right to inherit my legacy, and it'll be useless even if you obtain another invisible medallion. There are 10,000 of these medallions, and they're scattered in every corner of the residence. Let's see if you're lucky enough to find one. Struggle, survive, and fight. Only the strongest dragon will be able to obtain my treasures. Trust me, as long as you're the final victor, you'll obtain the greatest treasure in this world, a treasure you won't be able to enjoy for the rest of your life. With that, the formless dragon vanished once more. His words, however, had caused a huge commotion among all the dragons in the cave abode. Even the giant dragons outside the cave had gone completely crazy. Heavens, there's a core residence in this residence, and we've only been searching the outskirts. One dragon was in disbelief upon hearing the news. Just how rich is the formless dragon Theodore? Just the outer regions have top-notch sacred herbs like the scarlet blood dragon godgrass and the enlightenment flower. I can't imagine how many treasures are hidden in the core regions. One dragon felt his blood boiling and his body trembling. The treasures on Theodore alone were enough to make one's hair stand on end. Just the treasures they'd plundered in the outskirts over the past few days were enough for them to enjoy for the rest of their lives. However, this was only the outer regions, a mere portion of Theodore's wealth. It was insignificant, a drop in the ocean. How insane was this? How shocking was this? The invisible medallion. I must risk my life to obtain it. That's where Theodore kept all his treasures. That's the true treasure trove. One dragon roared furiously, his eyes bloodshot. Who is it? Who's the one with such heaven-defying luck to obtain the first invisible medallion? One dragon searched everywhere, hoping to find the first dragon who'd obtain the medallion and snatch it from him. It wasn't as simple as a medallion, but a key to the gates of riches. I sense it. I sense the specific location of the dragon with the medallion. That fellow seems to be Master Mutaic. Just then, a dragon roared, and the entire ruins trembled. A mysterious information was infused into the depths of his consciousness, and a map of the ruins appeared in his mind. Xiaoping's figure also turned into a dot of light that appeared on the map of the ruins. No matter where Xiaoping ran, this dot of light followed him like a shadow. At the same time, Xiaoping's appearance and the scene of him obtaining the invisible medallion were also displayed on the map. F***CK, it's actually that Master Mutato again. How lucky is he? He even got the invisible token. Is God blind? Yi Xuan's expression changed. Just now, he obtained the Crimson Blood Dragon God Grass, Enlightenment Flower, and now he even obtained the invisible medallion. Is he Theodore's son? How can he take care of him like this? It's too unfair. When a group of dragons found out the identity of the dragon who'd obtained the invisible medallion, their eyes turned green. The jealousy in their hearts couldn't be described with words. Good luck is not necessarily good luck. A dragon revealed a trace of a sneer. He was the first to obtain the invisible command, so he became the target of everyone. All the dragons will choose to hunt him down. No matter how powerful Master Mutato is, can he resist the pursuit of so many dragons? Moreover, the dragons who possess the invisible medallion will expose their traces for half an hour every day. Such exposure is unavoidable. As long as the dragons have the invisible medallion, they will encounter it. In other words, this Master Mutaic's ability to conceal himself is completely abolished. He will be discovered by all of us dragons. Even if the ruins are large, where can he run to? If he doesn't give up the invisible medallion, he's dead. Hearing this, many dragons were also convinced. That's right, this Master Mutaic is dead. He has the Crimson Blood Dragon God Grass, Enlightenment Flower, and now he has the invisible medallion. He's simply a moving treasure. Moreover, his position has been exposed. He can't hide, so anyone can chase after him. Let's go, don't talk nonsense. Immediately chase after him. Kill this Master Mutaic, and take away all of his magic weapons and the invisible medallion. That's right, all of his treasures are mine. This time, he can't escape. Many dragons shouted in excitement. They also sensed Xiaoping's specific position and chased after him. At this time, Xiaoping also knew that he was facing an unprecedented crisis. This damned invisible dragon Theodore. Xiaoping gritted his teeth. If that invisible dragon Theodore appeared in this place, he would definitely rush up and punch this guy. This was simply trying to kill him. He knew that obtaining this medallion would not be a good thing. Originally, he could use his concealment ability to make a fortune around the ruins. He could plunder treasures from everywhere and rob other dragons' treasures. Now, with such an invisible medallion and exposing his traces every day, how could he hide? There was no way to hide at all. He could only fight to the death with the other dragons. Of course, it was impossible for him to give up this invisible medallion and be a coward. That was because he had the same thought as the other giant dragons. If there were so many amazing treasures in the outer region alone, then what about the core region? Just how amazing would the treasures be? It was simply unimaginable. Therefore, no matter how dangerous the situation was, he had to fight to the death. Unless it was the last resort, he would never give up the invisible medallion. There's no other way. I can only kill. Whoever dares to snatch my things must die. Xiaoping clenched his fists. His killing intent was soaring, the void distorted, and his body exuded a burst of ancient underworld god aura. Chapter 2460. Another day had passed. At this time, many dragons had obtained all kinds of treasures in the ruins. Even dozens of invisible tokens had appeared. These dragons who obtained treasures and invisible tokens would naturally be chased by other dragons, even if they were all dragons of the same race. But under the peerless opportunity, their relatives and friends would not care about their feelings, not to mention that they were merely dragons of the same race. But even so, the most eye-catching dragon was still Master Mateto. After all, the Enlightenment Flower and Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass on Master Mateto were too precious. Even ancient dragons coveted them. How could they give up? Many dragons were still looking for traces of Master Mateto, not giving up. Aha, it's time for the invisible token to be exposed. Master Mateto. Sure enough, Master Mateto is in this place. I finally found this kid. Quack! This Master Mateto is just near our metal dragons. Let's see where he can run to this time. Immediately catch this kid. Don't let him run away. But after killing this Master Mateto, how should we divide the Enlightenment Flower, Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass, and the invisible token? What's the use of thinking so much? Kill this kid first. If we can't kill this Master Mateto, then don't say anything. Many metal dragons were discussing. Because they wanted to hunt down Master Mateto, they gathered together and formed a temporary team. Moreover, each of their strength had reached the Middle Ancient Realm. They had comprehended the law of time and possessed the domain of time and space. They were almost one of the strongest dragons in this ruin. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without saying a word, they immediately flew in the direction where Xiaoping appeared. At this time, Xiaoping stayed in the same place and did not run at all. He did it on purpose. He wanted to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. He also knew that he could not hide at all. He had to fight for at least half an hour. Otherwise, the other dragons could still continuously find his whereabouts, unless he gave up the invisible token. Sure enough, he is Master Mateto. He really searched everywhere in the world and found it without any effort. This kid has the Enlightenment Flower, Crimson Blood, Dragon Divine Grass, and the invisible token. Kill him, and these treasures will belong to us. It's really great. This kid is quite capable. Quite a number of dragons had tried to hunt him down before, but all of them disappeared without a trace. They couldn't even send out a distress signal. Hee, it's just a near-ancient dragon. How powerful can it be? However, your concerns are not without reason. Let's attack together and kill him first. This group of metal dragons was filled with killing intent. Waves of intense malice and killing intent surged out from their bodies. They did not conceal it in the slightest. Since ancient times, they had always been like evil dragons. They were born evil and did not care about the so-called benevolence and morality. Interesting. Steel dragon, rock dragon, gold dragon, diamond dragon, mercury dragon, bronze dragon, and so on. Metal dragon. You fellows want to cause trouble for me? It seems you fellows have a death wish. Xiaoping stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking at these famous metal dragons. These metal dragons were all constructed from special metal materials, and all of them had defenses that were almost indestructible by physical force. It could be said that every metal dragon had the strongest combat skills and defense. It could be said to be an impenetrable fortress and was known as one of the strongest species in close combat. Foolish thing. A mere near ancient dragon dares to provoke us metal dragons? Even if you're a sacred dragon, you will die here today. Come out, steel wall. In an instant, a steel dragon roared angrily. A powerful steel space-time domain emanated from its body. The space within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles was enveloped by a steel wall, completely surrounding this place. Countless steel elements gathered together, and the steel wall that was hundreds of millions of kilometers tall immediately rose from the ground. Moreover, it contained a powerful space-time restriction. Ordinary power could not shake it at all. It was enough to seal the sky and lock the earth. This was a steel wall built to prevent Xiaoping from escaping. Diamond cage. This is the strongest cage in the world. Let's see how you can escape. You can be trapped in this place until the end of time. The diamond dragon was not to be outdone. It also formed a diamond city wall that fused with the steel city wall. Powerful restrictive formations were set up around it, sealing everything and forming a huge cage. No matter what method was used, it would not be easy to escape from this cage. The steel dragon and diamond dragon were also known as the dragons with the strongest defense. The cage they built was known as a prison that could not be broken out of. Even if a demon from the abyss was imprisoned in it, it would not be able to escape. Fall, rock meteor. Let all the filth in this world turn into ashes. A huge rock dragon roared angrily. In the sky, countless earth elements gathered to form huge rocks. Each rock was as big as a star, and there were thousands of them. Moreover, each rock contained a powerful restriction formation. They were as heavy as stars, and if they fell, they would be able to destroy an area. This move seemed to be able to destroy the world. Wild Mercury dance. It is your honor to die in this world of Mercury. The Mercury dragon sneered. Its body seemed to have turned into mercury. Each drop of mercury contained a strong poison that could corrode the soul. If one was hit by a drop, it would be like being cursed. Moreover, each drop of mercury was as heavy as first essence water. In an instant, hundreds of millions of mercury raindrops poured down from the depths of the void, covering the sky and earth. It was as if they had turned into many mercury snakes, forming a super large formation that enveloped everything. There was nowhere to hide. Bronze cannon. This cannon can pierce through the world. Who can block it? The bronze dragon was still in its original position. Its huge body was brewing bronze power. Endless power gathered together. This bronze power contained strange powers, such as breaking magic and armor. There was once an invincible bronze dragon that could destroy dozens of worlds with a single cannon shot. Although this bronze dragon that had reached the Middle Ancient realm did not have such power, this cannon shot could still kill any Middle Ancient dragon of the same level. Even though this attack could only be used 3 times a day, it was enough to make countless dragons tremble in fear. Countless living beings in the various worlds were terrified. Gold sword formation. Be immersed in this dragon's beautiful sword art. The gold dragon cackled. It circulated the gold elements in its body. In an instant, hundreds of millions of flying swords condensed from gold appeared in the depths of the void. Each flying sword was extremely sharp and indestructible. They contained a sharp power that could cut through space and time. The hundreds of millions of golden flying swords formed a huge sword formation. They buzzed and resonated with the heavenly Tao. It was as if they had turned into the destructive power of the loss. Swish, swish, swish. In an instant, Hundreds of millions of golden, flying swords blasted over. They covered the sky and earth, as if they wanted to turn Xia Ping's body into a beehive. Chapter 2461. Bloodline Divine Ability. Infernal Golden Crow Wings. In the face of such an attack, Xia Ping's figure flashed, and a pair of illusory infernal golden crow wings appeared on his back. Each feather was condensed from infernal golden crow flames, and seemed to contain the power of the law. Ordinary people could not see such flames at all, as if they were transparent. At this moment, such a pair of wings appeared on his body, and his whole body seemed to blend into the depths of space-time, as if he had escaped to another dimension, and his body was surrounded by a powerful power of the law. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, Xia Ping's speed reached the extreme, and with the use of the space domain, he had the effect of teleportation in this space. Even if the attacks of these ancient dragons were enough to distort the law of space-time, ordinary ancient dragons would be interrupted if they tried to teleport. If they tried to use it forcibly, they might fall into the turbulence of space and be torn apart by the power of the space storm. However, the infernal golden crow wings on his body were different. Even if he was in the turbulence of space, he could still smooth all the turbulence and calmly shuttle through any place. This was like the supreme wings of outer heaven above all space-time. Rumble. In the next second, the attacks of these metal dragons arrived, bombarding the place where Xia Ping was, and instantly smashed the place into nothingness. Not even a speck of dust remained. One could imagine how terrifying these ancient dragons were. Each of them was like a weapon in the human world. What happened? Where's Master Mateto? Is he dead? The Mercury Dragon's divine sense scanned everywhere, but could not sense Xia Ping's existence. He must be dead. In the face of this dragon's gorgeous attack, no dragon can survive. He has probably turned into ashes. The gold dragon laughed loudly, standing with his hands behind his back, his face full of arrogance. This dragon did not sense the slightest aura of this Master Mateto, as if he disappeared into thin air from this world. This situation is very strange. According to the news, he can fight against ancient dragons, so it is impossible for him to die so easily. Everyone needs to be careful. The bronze dragon said calmly. Because the number of times it could attack was limited, it was extremely cautious every time it attacked. It was also the most cautious dragon among this group of dragons, never being careless. It is indeed strange. This dragon is the champion of the martial arts competition. Even if he's only in the late ancient realm, it is impossible for him to die so easily. Maybe this kid is hiding somewhere. I did not sense his aura of death. The rock dragon said in a muffled voice, "Don't worry, under this dragon's diamond cage. Even the demons of the abyss world can be trapped. If this Master Mateto is not dead, he must be in this cage. There is nowhere to hide." Diamond Dragon said proudly, "Wait, careful. I can sense a strange soul ripple coming from the void. It is distorting this space." Suddenly, the steel dragon could not stop himself from shouting, "Enter the dream. In the dream, you can obtain eternity, obtain everything, and be omnipotent." There was a boom as Xia Ping emerged from the depths of the subdimension with his golden crow hell wings. He had taken advantage of the fact that the metal dragons had finished their attack, and now was the moment when the void was at its weakest. Taking advantage of this moment, he used the soul secret technique, Zhuang Zhou's dream of butterfly. Rumble. In an instant, the space-time within a radius of 1,000 light years was distorted, falling into Zhuang Zhou's dream world. It was as if this area was between reality and illusion, and all the souls of the metal dragons were forcibly pulled into the dream world. Crap! This is a secret soul technique. Run quickly. We are metal dragons, and our soul power is weak. We can't resist such a secret soul technique. Damn it! Why didn't the intelligence say that he is proficient in the secret soul technique? This is too shameless. Isn't he the champion of the martial arts competition? Isn't he a muscular dragon? What a joke. The metal dragons' faces changed drastically, and their faces were ashen. although the metal dragons were known as the muscular men of the dragon race. Invincible in close combat, and known as a tank-like existence, they were immune to almost any physical attack, and they would never die in battle. However, they also had a weakness, and that was their weak soul. If they were faced with a soul attack, the soul ripple would penetrate the metal shell, and they would be easily killed. They also knew this weakness, and they were always careful. But who would have thought that this famous Master Mateto was not only strong in melee combat, but also good at the secret soul technique? This was far beyond their expectations. Rumble. In just an instant, these golden dragons could not even send out a distress signal, and they fell into the world of Zhuang Zhou's dream of butterfly one by one. Their huge bodies were dumbfounded, and their dragon eyes lost all consciousness. Obviously, they had completely fainted and no longer had any power to resist. And the surrounding diamond cages and steel cages also collapsed and disappeared without a trace because they were not controlled by the diamond dragons and steel dragons. Ha! These metal dragons are all mine. Xia Ping grabbed with his big hand and immediately used the six-pad sealing technique to capture all the Middle Ancient Realm metal dragons. He sealed all their magical power and then imprisoned them in the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. He was very happy. These metal dragons were simply the best labor force. Each of them was tall and mighty, invincible in physical attacks, and could be thrown out as a meat shield at the critical moment. It could be said that they were hard-working cattle. If he could completely tame them, they would probably be his best helpers. Master is really amazing. You caught another batch of metal dragons. The green ox looked happy. As the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers grew bigger and bigger, it had almost surpassed the volume of the old master's space. In order to manage the various farmlands, medicinal fields, spiritual fields, and so on in the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers, he was really unable to split himself. Now that he had captured these metal dragons as slaves, it really greatly eased his labor force. Strange. What's the use of capturing so many dragons? These dragons are all arrogant and untamed. How can they be so easy to submit to? Corinne felt that it was very difficult to tame these arrogant dragons. Hee, what do you know? Don't be fooled by how arrogant they look and how they can't be tamed. However, we can capture them and use them as breeding pigs. Their offspring will still have the bloodline of dragons. We can brainwash them and change their personalities. Won't they still become our fighters? The green ox said disdainfully. Evil, too evil. Corinne was speechless. He did not expect the green ox to think so far ahead. However, it was indeed so. The personalities of these adult dragons were already stable, and it was very difficult to change. But their offspring, the young dragons, were different. Their personalities could still be changed. After some education, these young dragons would definitely obediently submit to them. But in this way, the Dragon Realm was simply the best ranch, and he could capture these dragons at will. Chapter 2462. Another 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Xiaoping set off a bloody storm in the relic. He no longer hid in the dark, but took the initiative to attack those giant dragons, seizing the opportunity to capture them one by one. Anyway, no matter what happened in the relic, the Dragon God Shrine would not care, so this was the best time to strike. If so many giant dragons disappeared in the outside world, it would definitely cause an uproar. But in the relic, no matter how many giant dragons disappeared, there was no way to investigate. After all, these giant dragons could also be dead. Moreover, this was the nest of the invisible dragon, Theodore, which was the base camp of the invincible giant dragons. Even the Dragon God Shrine could not do anything or intervene. However, such an unscrupulous action immediately caused many giant dragons to be frightened. Damn, this Master Mateto is too arrogant, simply unscrupulous. Isn't it? We haven't even attacked him yet, but this brat has already turned the tables and started to attack us. Just who gave him the courage to do so? He is indeed too arrogant. Previously, some immortal dragons and near ancient dragons had just appeared in a certain jungle, and they were all killed by this kid, not leaving a single one alive. This Master Mateto is indeed the champion of the martial arts competition. Such combat skills are too powerful, almost invincible in the same realm. I don't know what kind of giant dragon bloodline he has. Not only invincible in the same realm, but he also has no problem in challenging those with higher levels. It is said that he has also fought with the Middle Ancient dragons and even directly defeated and even killed many of them. Are you kidding me? This Master Matedo has at most advanced to the late Ancient realm. How can he compete with the Middle Ancient dragons who have comprehended the space-time domain? The gap between the two is too big. This is not a joke, because many dragons have witnessed such a battle. At that time, the sky fell and the earth cracked, and the sun and moon lost their light. This is enough to show Master Matedo's tyrannical strength. Damn, in this way, which dragon could be his opponent? Is he invincible in the relic? After all, it is impossible for ancient dragons to appear in the relic. Some dragons speculated that Master Matedo may not be so powerful before, but he may have consumed the red blood dragon divine grass to enhance his bloodline ability, so his combat power soared. No way, the red blood dragon divine grass was actually eaten by this kid. Then what hope do we have? Don't worry about that. He still has treasures like the enlightenment flower on him. Don't dream. This Master Matedo can't be killed without the ancient dragon personally making a move. If we meet Master Matedo, we will just be sending ourselves to our deaths. It was no wonder that he was so arrogant and refused a hand over these sacred medicines. If you don't have some ability, how would you dare to be so arrogant? Many dragons were talking about it. After 10 days of fighting, Master Matedo's reputation had thoroughly resounded throughout the ruins, causing countless dragons to be frightened. Even in the outside world, many dragons knew the reputation of Master Matedo. He really deserved his reputation. He was known as one of the strongest dragons in the history of the martial arts competition in tyrannical Dragon City. Not only was he invincible in the same realm, but he was also able to challenge those at a higher realm. This was enough to shock countless giant dragons, and it made the holy dragons of the Dragon God Shrine pay attention to it. They were very curious about this Master Matedo who suddenly appeared. Such a record also shocked many dragons, making them not dare to chase after Master Matedo again. They had to turn to deal with other dragons who had obtained the holy elixir. After all, the treasures of this ruin were not obtained by Master Matedo alone. The other colossal dragons had also obtained many sacred medicines, which were enough to make countless colossal dragons drool. At this moment, in a jungle, many elemental dragons who had reached the Middle Ancient realm gathered together, and their bodies were filled with a strong, murderous aura. These elemental dragons were the famous dragons of the Dragon Clan. They were the Water Dragon, Lava Dragon, Ice Dragon, Storm Dragon, Earth Dragon, Sand Dragon, Thunder Dragon, and so on. Their bodies were condensed from energy elements and contained a powerful immortal body. Ordinary physical attacks had no effect on the elemental dragons. They could disperse and gather at will. They could even manipulate the power of the elemental laws between heaven and earth at will, exerting several times the attack power of the same realm. In terms of combat power, the elemental dragons were second to none. Master Matedo is getting more and more arrogant. Do you really think that no dragon can deal with him? The Lava Dragon said in a low voice, "Don't be careless. This Master Matedo's strength is extraordinary. I saw several metal dragons who had reached the Middle Ancient realm joining forces to find trouble with him. However, they have not appeared until now. It is estimated that they are in danger." The Ice Dragon said calmly, just a group of stupid metal dragons. Even if they have reached the Middle Ancient realm, they can't be a match for us elemental dragons." The Storm Dragon sneered disdainfully. "I received news that the reason why those metal dragons were defeated and none of them escaped was because this Master Matedo had mastered a powerful soul secret technique, causing the metal dragons to fall into an illusion. As a result, they were easily killed one by one." An Earth Dragon said that he had received reliable news. He had gone to the battlefield to distort time and space, exploring the memories left behind by the past. Although most of the memory images were erased by a mysterious force, he could still perceive part of the truth. For example, that Master Mateto was good at soul secret techniques. No wonder this kid's battles are always so fast and silent. Often before the other reinforcements arrive, those dragons are already destroyed. If he has mastered soul secret techniques, it is not impossible. The Thunder Dragon's eyes revealed a trace of frightening light. The weakness of metal dragons is soul power. Although their physical defense is extremely strong, their soul defense is ordinary. If there's a dragon proficient in soul secret techniques to deal with them, it is indeed easy to be killed. The Storm Dragon clenched his fists. But we elemental dragons are different. We are born with powerful soul power. Ordinary soul secret techniques can't do anything to us. If Master Mateto wants to use the power of soul secret techniques to deal with us, is a pipe dream. That's right. That's why we're all gathered here. In any case, we have to get the enlightenment flowers and the formless medallion from this brat. They're the foundation of our Tao. There are already quite a few primordial dragons in the outside world who are willing to pay any price as long as we can help them get the enlightenment flowers. Sharon said in a low, muffled voice. The other elemental dragons' eyes suddenly lit up. Although the enlightenment flower was indeed precious, it was still too far for them, the Middle Ancient Realm. Even if they used other treasures, they could also advance to the immemorial Ancient Realm, or even the Archaic Realm. Therefore, they might as well use the enlightenment flower to exchange with the primordial dragons for other treasures. Chapter 2463. He's here. The time is up. Finally, the trace of Master Mateto is shown again. Sure enough, as we expected, this guy is too arrogant. He is still in the area near yesterday. At this time, Ice Dragon sensed the trace of the invisible token on Master Mateto. Then what are you waiting for? Let's go and kill Master Mateto and snatch the enlightenment flower and the invisible token. Many elemental dragons were murderous. Whoosh, whoosh. In an instant, these elemental dragons jumped through space and arrived at the place where Xia Ping was. At this moment, Xia Ping was sitting cross-legged on a plane, waiting for the arrival of the battle. He knew that even if he did not look for it personally, there would be countless dragons coming to find trouble with him. Just 10 days of deterrence was far from enough. Here it comes. At this time, he opened his eyes and sensed a distorted space fluctuation in the depths of the void. Suddenly, a powerful elemental dragon appeared directly in front of him. Some of them were bone-chilling, as if freezing everything. Some were as hot as hell, burning the world. Some exuded the aura of death, robbing all life energy. Each of these elemental dragons had mastered the elemental laws to the extreme. Each elemental dragon represented the extreme of an elemental law. In terms of combat power, these elemental dragons were more terrifying than the metal dragons he had encountered before. Moreover, their soul power was also quite powerful and not so easy to control. Even in the face of the power of his soul secret technique, they had a certain degree of resistance. Kill. As soon as the two sides met, they did not talk nonsense at all and directly began to fight. Because at this time, any words were useless. They knew that they were just here to snatch the treasures, and no amount of words could hide this. In this case, there was no need to hide. They directly killed Master Mateto and snatched the enlightenment flower and the invisible token from him. Thunder Prison. The first to attack was Thunder Dragon. It was known as the fastest dragon. It was really like lightning. Even its body could turn into lightning itself, as if it was the ancient thunder god. Walala, in an instant, it summoned hundreds of millions of thunderbolts. It seemed to communicate with the dimension of thunder. Each thunderbolt contained the terrible power to destroy time and space, as if it also contained the power of heaven's punishment. Hundreds of millions of bolts of purple lightning descended at the same time. Each bolt was like a heaven-piercing pillar, covering a radius of hundreds of millions of kilometers. It was like a world of lightning hell with nowhere to hide. Moreover, each bolt of lightning emitted powerful lightning, destruction, piercing, burning, and other types of law energy. They seeped into the essence of the soul and directly attacked the soul itself. One could imagine how terrifying this thunder prison was. Tempest breath. The storm dragon roared and took out a high-grade saint artifact. It was a huge horn, which was also its natal storm, storm's breath. It was like a war horn. It was engraved with dense patterns of the law of storm and emitted a mysterious aura. It communicated with the wind dimension and caused the law of wind to tremble. It blew the high-grade sacred artifact. Woo-woo, woo-woo, vaguely, an endless spatial storm blew over, like a storm of doomsday. It contained the tyrannical storm law, as well as the powerful space-time law, which could easily tear apart the void. This was a spatial storm. It produced extremely destructive power, like a natural disaster. Wind blades condensed from the storm law slashed over, as if to cut this part of the world into countless pieces. Any enemy that stood in front of the doomsday storm would be torn into powder. Water pierces stone. The water dragon also made a move. Its magical ability was very simple. It was to control the law of water. In just one breath, it condensed trillions of water droplets. These water droplets were not ordinary water. They were first yuan heavy water from the water dimension. Even extraordinary flames could not burn them. Moreover, they were extremely heavy. A drop of such water was comparable to a meteorite. At this moment, the trillions of water droplets seemed to form an ocean. Each droplet seemed to have its own will, containing the law of water, space-time, and piercing law. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Under the control of the water dragon, trillions of water droplets blasted towards Xiaoping. Each droplet was like a peerless sword chi, as if it could penetrate everything. Even a space-time law could not stop it. If one was hit by these water droplets, one would be instantly turned into a beehive. Even if one had an immortal body, one would be quickly destroyed by these water droplets. Absolute zero, icebound world. The ice dragon's eyes were bone-chilling and expressionless. It emitted a cold aura that seemed like 10,000-year-old profound ice, as if it could freeze everything in this world. In fact, its law of ice was this terrifying. When activated with full force, it could even temporarily freeze space-time. Whoosh, in an instant, with the ice dragon's body as the center, a vast cold aura permeated the void within a radius of trillions of kilometers. The surrounding space-time was freezing at a speed visible to the naked eye. No matter what it was, under such a cold aura, it rapidly froze. It was as if in such a world of ice and snow, any life would return to a state of nothingness, and all objects would come to a standstill. It wanted to completely freeze Xia Ping's movements and turn him into an ice sculpture. Death gravel, plunder life. The sand dragon's body emitted a terrifying aura of death, as if it was the grim reaper from hell. Its entire body was formed from gravel, but each gravel contained the power to plunder life. This was the sand dragon's innate magical ability. It was born with the ability to plunder life's moisture and energy. Any life that was approached by its gravel would be instantly turned into a dried corpse. If it wasn't strong enough, it would instantly turn into a dried corpse. Wherever it walked, it would turn into a land of death. Oases would turn into deserts. Bustling cities would turn into ruins, and countless living beings would have their lives plundered, turning into dried corpses and slumbering in the earth. The sand dragon was also known as the dragon of death of the dragon race, the ominous dragon. Law of gravity, absolute gravity, freeze. The earth dragon's power was also extremely simple and violent. It was gravity distortion. It had innately grasped the law of gravity and could exert extremely strong gravity on everything in the world. If a life couldn't withstand it, it would immediately shatter and turn into dust, ceasing to exist. It operated the law of gravity in its body, forming a gravity domain that crushed down and enveloped Xiaoping's body. It kept shrinking, condensing into a single point, and immediately exerted a gravity that was trillions of times stronger. Under such gravity, even a planet would be crushed into a black hole constantly collapsing and compressing. If it was a body of flesh and blood, there was no need to even mention it. Even its soul would be crushed into dust. These elemental dragons attacked at the same time, erupting with power that seemed to be able to destroy this world. Chapter 2464. Come out, pearl of mountains and rivers. Diagram of the yellow river of 9 bends. Sensing these fierce attacks, Xiaoping immediately took out his high-grade sacred weapon, Pearl of Mountains and Rivers, and summoned the formation diagram inside, completely covering the void of thousands of light years. Rumble! In an instant, the void of thousands of light years had undergone earth-shattering changes. It seemed to be shrouded by countless yellow rivers, with 9 bends and 18 bends, forming a tyrannical formation. Each river seemed to be like a giant dragon, containing unparalleled power, communicating with the law of the void, seemingly suppressing all the laws of the universe in this place. Dong, dong, dong. And this power also collided with many elemental dragons who had reached the Middle Ancient Realm, resulting in an earth-shattering explosion. It was like a shock between the laws, destroying the void and almost blowing up this place. All the power of the elemental laws was blocked by the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. All of a sudden, the surrounding void was torn apart, causing a void storm and space turbulence. If an ordinary saint came to this place, he would probably be torn apart by the space turbulence. Sure enough, the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers has become more powerful. Xiaoping immediately felt very satisfied. After being promoted to a high-grade sacred weapon, the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers' power had been improved geometrically, even more powerful than it was in its heyday. If the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers was a high-grade sacred weapon, it probably would not have been damaged so easily. Damn, what kind of magic weapon is this? It can actually withstand the attack of our elemental dragons? This is a high-grade sacred weapon. It doesn't seem to be a magic weapon of our dragon clan, but from the human clan. Damn, where did Master Mateto get the human clan's sacred weapon? Although the human clan's sacred weapons are rare, it's not like they don't exist. The dragon realm is very big, and occasionally there are some. This is nothing. This Master Mateto is so arrogant. Is he relying on this high-grade sacred weapon? Don't be afraid. Even if he has a high-grade sacred weapon, if he wants to use it, he also needs magic power. Under the strong attack of our elemental dragons, sooner or later, Master Mateto's magic power will be exhausted and he will die. That's right. If he fights with us, the one who will die will definitely be this kid. Many elemental dragons were also taken aback. They didn't expect that their full power attack would be easily blocked by Master Mateto's magic weapon. However, they did not lose confidence. They had seen far too many things. A mere high-grade saint artifact was not enough for them to give up just like that. Boundless space map. Xiaoping formed a seal with both his hands and channeled his magic power into it, immediately summoning the second diagram of the Mountain River Pearl. Boom! In an instant, the void within a radius of several thousand light years distorted. All the void became layered, as if countless dimensions of space-time were stacked together. In just a few breaths' time, with the bead of mountains and rivers as the center, the space within a radius of several thousand light years had been transformed into a spatial maze. It sealed off the heavens and locked down the earth, and no power could escape. Unless the power of the Mountain River Pearl's restriction formation was destroyed, they would be trapped in this space maze. What does Master Mateto want to do? Does he want to trap us and kill us all in one fell swoop? Seeing this scene, Ice Dragon's pupils shrank involuntarily. It sensed that it seemed that it could not escape from this place. No matter where it escaped to, it was as if it was a space corridor, and it would be trapped in this place forever. Ridiculous. He dares to use a spatial maze in front of us elemental dragons. Isn't this showing off in front of an expert? Let's see if he dares to continue to be arrogant after we break this **T maze. Many elemental dragons shouted angrily. They were completely enraged. This kid actually wanted to trap all of them, as if he was afraid that they would escape. He completely regarded them as fish on the chopping board. This was unacceptable. In the face of such a situation, Even a clay figurine would have some anger. Who could stand it? However, before the elemental dragons could make a move, Xiaoping attacked again in one go. High-grade Saint Artifact, Pudu Divine Saber. This was a high-grade saint artifact that he had obtained from a Buddhist saint he had killed before, but he had never used it before. Now he finally took it out. In an instant, Xiaoping held the Pudu Divine Saber in his hand, channeled the huge magic power in his body, and slashed at these elemental dragons. Boom! A golden saber light cut through space and time, ignoring the restraints of the space-time domain. It seemed to contain waves of Zen and directly attacked the enemy's body and soul. What? Many elemental dragons were shocked. They could feel that this slash did not contain any killing intent, but they could feel waves of great will to save all living beings. Under the influence of such a will, they felt as if they were being purified and completely surrendered. This was the power of the Pudu Divine Saber. With one slash, it was as if it could save all living beings. Often, the living beings that were killed did not feel like they had died. Instead, they felt as if they had been redeemed and ascended to paradise. Every life that was killed by the Pudu Divine Saber died in an extremely peaceful manner. There was no pain. Instead, their faces were filled with joy, as if they had been led to paradise by a Buddhist emissary. Dong! This slash landed squarely on the bodies of a few elemental dragons, instantly splitting their bodies in half. They could not help but let out shrill screams. Even their souls were severely injured. Even so, with the powerful immortal bodies and elemental bodies of the elemental dragons, they quickly recovered in just a breath's time. However, their auras were a little weaker. They can't be killed even after this? Xiaoping raised his eyebrows. If it was an ancient dragon of the same level, he would have killed them with one slash. There was no exception. Even a medieval metal dragon would be severely injured by this slash and be on the verge of death. However, these elemental dragons were only lightly injured and not seriously injured. One could imagine that the elemental bodies of these elemental dragons were indeed extremely mysterious. They were even more powerful than the ordinary immortal bodies. They were a species that was very difficult to kill. Damn Master Mateto, another superior sacred artifact, and it is a Buddhist sacred artifact. Where did this bastard get so many magic treasures? We must kill this bastard. We can't let him continue to do whatever he wants. Haha, no matter how many sacred artifacts this kid has, they're useless against the elemental bodies of us elemental dragons. First, freeze him and completely control him. Later, I will cut this kid into pieces. It seems that Master Mateto has a lot of treasures on him. Not only does he have the Enlightenment Flower and the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass, he also has many more magic treasures. We might be rich this time. The many elemental dragons were filled with killing intent, and greed appeared in their eyes. It seemed that they could not wait to take away all the treasures on Xiaoping's body and make them their own. Chapter 2465. Unkillable? In my eyes, there is no existence that can't be killed. Hearing the words of these elemental dragons, Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He activated his left eye, the Eye of Hell. In an instant, his left eye completely turned into a black vortex. It was as if the depths of his pupil contained a world of hell. It was all-encompassing and emitted the aura of death. At this moment, the whole world seemed to have changed in his eyes. There was only black and white left, and many black lines appeared in the void around him. These lines were the lines of death. As long as this line of death was cut, no matter how powerful the enemy's undying body was, they would be completely killed. The existence of the enemy would be erased from the depths of their origin. This was also the terrifying ability of the Eye of Hell. It could see the enemy's true weakness and look straight into the abyss of death. And this was also the true meaning of the Grim Reaper. It could see the line of death of every living being and reap with its death scythe. No matter where they escaped to, they would be killed. Originally, Xiaoping rarely used the ability of the Eye of Hell. But at this moment, in order to kill these elemental dragons with elemental bodies, he used the Eye of Hell. What exactly is this feeling? Sand dragons were the most sensitive to the aura of death. The moment it felt that the eye opened, its entire body's aura was locked, and it had nowhere to escape. That black eye emitted waves of ominous aura. It was as if it came from the god of the underworld. It was filled with the aura of death, as if it could see the end of all things. Even if it was a primordial dragon that had comprehended the law of space and time, an existence that had jumped out of the river of fate, it still couldn't help but shiver when facing this nether godlike eye. Damn it, this Master Mateto is too strange. He is definitely not an ordinary dragon. No, we can't continue fighting. I have a feeling that if we continue, we will die without a doubt. Run, hurry up, and escape from this place. All the elemental dragons' hair stood up. They were terrified. They didn't know how many years they had been fighting for, and they had an extraordinary intuition and instinct for death. They could clearly feel that death was approaching. Even their elemental bodies couldn't resist it. It was as if they were targeted by the primordial dragons and had nowhere to escape. They no longer had any greed and wanted to escape from this damned place. All things will come to an end. Even the gods will fall, and all life will wither. Xiaoping, who had unleashed the eye of hell, seemed to have abandoned all emotions at this moment. He only possessed absolute calmness. Other than ending everything, he had no other thoughts. Whoosh! He waved the Pudu divine saber in his hand, and a golden saber light swept out, striking deep into the void. With a loud bang, a line of death in the distance was instantly cut off. Without a doubt, with a boom, the first to bear the brunt of the attack was the sand dragon. It did not even try to run. It only felt a mysterious and tyrannical power pass through its body silently. With a crack, its soul was obliterated in the next second. It was as if the Grim Reaper's scythe had harvested its soul. Even its elemental body could not withstand it. Shalong. Seeing this scene, the other elemental dragons were so scared that they peed their pants. It was just a single slash. This famous sand dragon was known as the symbol of death. It was extremely ferocious and had killed countless people, yet it had been killed just like that. Moreover, when it died, there were no external injuries. The saber light directly penetrated its body, destroying its soul completely. Not a single bit of its soul power was left. What kind of terrifying and strange power was this? Was this still a dragon? Could this be a dragon of disaster born in some corner of the universe? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, everything to the netherworld. Xiaoping's figure flashed, and he casually waved his saber again. Instantly, the saber light flashed, and a line of death in the depths of the void was easily and silently torn apart. Boom! The most violent lava dragon was dead. Its huge body stood quietly in the void. Its body was like a sacred fire that would never be extinguished, burning fiercely. But now it was like a collapsing mountain. It fell to the ground just like that. The color in the depths of its eyes had completely disappeared, and the soul aura on its body had also disappeared completely. This slash was simple and direct, but it was extremely fatal. A truly tyrannical and invincible magical power was like this. There were no fancy things. With one slash, the enemy could be killed. There was no way to block, look directly at, avoid, or resist. Damn Master Mateto. Everyone, don't be afraid. Let's fight with this bastard. I don't believe that he is really invincible. Seeing this situation, the Earth Dragon went completely crazy. It couldn't stand the silent fear of death spreading in the void. It also didn't want to be killed by Master Mateto without a sound. Boom! A violent power of the law of Earth gushed out of its body. Countless times the gravity was superimposed. It even burned its own chi and blood, turning itself into a black hole that devoured everything. Obviously, this Earth Dragon was going to go all out. Even if it died, it wanted to drag this kid down with it. But Xiaoping didn't even look at it. His eyes were indifferent, like a high and mighty god. The Pudu divine saber in his hand gently slashed. Boom! The Earth Dragon, who had gone completely crazy, died in an instant. Its body, which was originally as huge as a mountain, was like a piece of paper. A formless power of death completely destroyed its soul. When it died, its eyes were wide open, revealing fear, shock, and disbelief. It seemed that it couldn't believe that it was killed so easily. Seeing this scene, the other elemental dragons went crazy. This was an earth dragon that had reached the Middle Ancient Realm. It was known as one of the dragons with the strongest defense. It was born proficient in the law of earth and was known as a dragon that would never die if it stood on the ground. But now, with just one slash, this famous earth dragon was killed. What kind of joke was this? What kind of power was this? What kind of dragon was this Master Mateto? They had never heard of it. We surrender, we surrender. Don't kill me. I am willing to surrender to you. With a plop, an ice dragon immediately knelt on the ground, showing its intention to surrender. It was completely frightened. This was not a dragon at all, but the god of the underworld. How could there be such a terrifying ancient dragon in the world? I also surrender. Please don't kill me. At this time, the other elemental dragons were also scared out of their wits. They had lost all will to resist. The battle of killing 3 ancient dragons in a row had completely frightened them. Such a method was simply killing dragons like cutting grass. No matter how they struggled, they would die. In this case, they might as well surrender. Maybe they could still survive. If the dragons in the outside world saw this scene, they would be scared out of their wits. Many ancient dragons were actually scared to the point of kneeling and surrendering by a mere ancient dragon. This kind of thing was simply unheard of. Chapter 2466. Seeing that these elemental dragons were intimidated, Xiaoping did not continue to kill them. Instead, he chose to seal all of them and imprison them in the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. As for the dead ancient dragons, they were refined into time fruits. As expected of the Eye of Hell, it's really powerful, but the consumption is a bit high. Xiaoping sighed. This Eye of Hell could directly kill sages, find the enemy's line of death, and destroy them from the root. However, the burden of using this was very heavy. Although he did not fight for a long time, it rapidly consumed a part of his magic power. One must know that his magic power was so vast that even ancient sages could not compare to it. Even so, after opening this eye, he still felt a wave of fatigue. This was only suitable as a trump card to kill enemies at a critical moment. It cannot be used as a regular method. I wonder what treasures these elemental dragons have on them. Xiaoping touched his chin. In this relic, he was not the only one who found treasures. The other dragons also had their own encounters and obtained many treasures. It was the same for these powerful elemental dragons. Thinking of this, he immediately took out the spatial rings he obtained from these elemental dragons and forcefully broke the restrictive formations, revealing the things inside. What a treasure! Seeing the treasures inside, Xiaoping's eyes lit up. Heavens, this is a golden-bodied arhut fruit. This is a Tao fruit condensed from the life essence of a Buddhist golden-bodied arhut. If you eat it, you will have a chance to cultivate the Buddhist golden-bodied arhut body, becoming invincible. I can't believe I actually saw such a wondrous fruit in this place. When the green ox saw the treasures inside, his eyes could not help but pop out in shock. He said that this golden arhut fruit was extremely rare. It must be a Buddhist sarira condensed from the flesh and blood essence of a Buddhist almighty after he passed away. Then it had to be planted. After being nurtured by the Buddhist Dharma, tempered by the laws of heaven and earth, and permeated by the energy of the universe, only then would it have a chance to give birth to such a golden arhut fruit. In the Buddhist world, people who had not made great contributions would not be qualified to have such a wondrous fruit. In the outside world, it was impossible to have one at all. This was a treasure that could not be bought even with money. The green ox had only heard of such a wondrous fruit before, but he had never seen it before. F***, are you kidding me? This is a 9 immortal vine. Continuing to watch, the green ox's eyes widened, and his heart almost twitched. What's a 9 immortal vine? Xiaoping asked curiously. This is an extremely rare plant in the universe. The green ox immediately said, it has 9 vines and has the characteristic of immortality. Even if one of the vines is cut off, It can quickly recover at a speed with the naked eye, just like the immortal body of a saint. However, the most important thing was not this, but the liquid that flowed out from the 9 immortal vine. Every drop of the liquid contained the power of heaven and earth, capable of reviving the dead and regenerating flesh and bones. No matter how heavy the injury was, as long as one took a drop of the 9 immortal vine's liquid, they would be able to recover at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. In fact, this kind of liquid is extremely effective in healing the soul injuries of sages. What? Hearing this, Xiaoping was shocked. A treasure that could heal injuries to the soul couldn't just be described as precious. It was simply priceless and priceless. If the sages knew about this, they would definitely go crazy. This was because all the elixirs on the market that could heal injuries to the soul would basically be sold out. They would definitely not be sold easily. One could imagine how precious this 9 immortal vine was. That's right. It's precisely because of its amazing healing effect that it is crazily sought after by countless sages. The green ox said excitedly. But what's more terrifying is that it has the characteristic of immortality. Even if one vine is cut off and drops of the precious liquid, it can still quickly recover. One can imagine that having the 9 immortal vine is equivalent to having a super machine that can produce endless wealth. Which sage wouldn't go crazy for it? Hearing this, Xiaoping finally understood how precious the 9 immortal vine was. It was basically a treasure bowl that could produce spiritual liquid that could heal the flesh and bones of the dead. And it could also regenerate continuously. This could no longer be described as a supreme treasure. Its value was no less than that of the enlightenment flower. From a certain perspective, to the entire race, its value was even greater than that of the enlightenment flower. After all, no matter how powerful the enlightenment flower was, it could only be used by one person, while the 9 immortal vine could save the life of an entire race. One could imagine how precious and beneficial it was. Oh my God, this is the sea god tea. Seeing another sacred herb in the storage ring, the green ox almost fainted from fright. These top-notch sacred herbs appearing one after another was truly unbearable. The so-called sea god tea was also a top-notch sacred herb in the universe. It had to grow in an extremely harsh environment. It had to grow on a planet filled with water elements. And after millions of eras of cultivation, it had to devour the origin energy of the universe before it could be born. If an ordinary person were to consume it, they would unknowingly obtain the Tao of water, which would allow them to grasp innate abilities of water, as if they were the ruler of the ocean. Moreover, they would have a unique talent for comprehending the laws of water, which was even more terrifying than the water dragon. It could be said that if an ordinary person were to obtain this sea god tea and consume it, they would immediately become a top-notch water genius in the universe. Cultivating water-type techniques would allow them to achieve twice the results with half the effort, like adding wings to a tiger. What a treasure! Seeing the stalk of sea god tea, Xiaoping knew that he had plundered another good thing. Master, this formless dragon Theodore is practically a cosmic thief. He really has plundered every place in the universe. Who knows how many treasure vaults he's gone to and how many treasures and sacred herbs he's taken? The green ox exclaimed. In truth, he did not even know how to describe his current feelings. Sacred herbs like these were extremely rare in the universe, and some are even thought to be extinct or on the verge of extinction. He did not expect to find them here. Back then, his old master, the Mountain River Saint, was a knowledgeable alchemist who knew how many saints sought him out for alchemy, and the number of sacred herbs he had seen was innumerable. Even so, he had not seen a single sacred herb in this place. One could imagine how precious these sacred herbs were, and how unique they were in the universe. From this, one could see how wealthy the formless dragon Theodore was. While he would not dare to say that he was the richest life form in the universe, he was definitely one of the richest. Any random item he took out was enough to make countless saints fight to the death and start a war. Chapter 2467. A month passed by in the blink of an eye. Among them, there were also many dragons who wanted to find trouble with Xiaoping, trying to snatch Xiaoping's enlightenment flower and invisible token, but they were either beheaded or imprisoned in the space of the mountain river pearl, becoming eternal slaves. As time passed, invisible tokens continued to appear everywhere in the ruins, and the surrounding dragons became less and less to chase after Xiaoping. They also knew that Xiaoping was not a dragon to be trifled with. This Master Matado is really strange. He can actually live for a month, and even to this day, no one can snatch the invisible token and enlightenment flower from him. It is simply incredible. Some dragons felt confused. They felt that according to the strength of this Master Matado, surrounded by dragons, like a tiger eyeing its prey, with the whole world as his enemy, let alone living for a month, even living for 3 days would be amazing. But this Master Matado was still alive and well, living safe and sound to this day. It is indeed incredible. I have long heard that there were many Middle Ancient dragons who went to find trouble with Master Matado, but there is no news so far. Don't know whether those Middle Ancient dragons are dead or alive. Some dragons knew some gossip. Are you kidding me? They went to find trouble with Master Matado, but now there's no way to get any news. They're naturally dead. How can we not know whether they are dead or alive? Some dragons were dumbfounded. According to the strength of the Middle Ancient dragons, each of them had comprehended the law of time and mastered the domain of time and space. Even if such an existence could not beat the other party, they should be able to escape. However, they encountered this Master Matado, and not a single news was leaked, as if he disappeared from this world silently, which made the dragons even more afraid. Indeed, many dragons also think that those Middle Ancient dragons are dead. That Master Matado is like a black hole. Who knows how many dragons' lives have been devoured? It is terrifying. I think this is too exaggerated. That Master Matado is only in the late ancient realm, not to mention that he can contend with the Middle Ancient dragons. He can actually kill them. What a joke. Yeah, I still can't imagine such an absurd thing. A group of dragons simply couldn't believe it, and at the same time, they were also puzzled. At this time, an old dragon said in a deep voice, "Actually, it's not impossible. There are countless secrets in the universe. I heard that in the Forbidden Darkness Zone, there was once an ancestor of the dragon race who encountered a kind of sacred medicine called the Yellow Springs flower. As soon as they touched the flower, they were immediately swept away by a mysterious power of death. Even the primordial dragons were affected. Their souls were pulled into the Yellow Springs and silently died. If Master Matado could silently kill so many ancient dragons and make them unable to escape, then he must have grasped such a mysterious treasure. Although it might not be a miraculous plant like the Yellow Springs flower, it might have the same effect as the Yellow Springs flower. I don't know, but those ancient dragons all fell for it. It voiced its conjecture. Hearing these words, the other dragons couldn't help but come to a sudden realization. So that's how it is. It seems that it's really as you said, that Master Matado must have some mysterious means that the dragons don't know about. But what kind of method is it? If I know, I can solve this Master Matado. A dragon revealed a greedy look. I advise you not to provoke that Master Matado again. Since it's a mysterious method, it's not easy to find out. Didn't you see those ancient dragons? Silently dying is enough to prove the horror of this method. Before knowing what this method is, go to look for Master Matado is just throwing away your life. The old dragon sneered. Hearing these words, many dragons couldn't help but shiver. It was indeed like this. Before knowing Master Matado's secret method, going to look for Master Matado was just throwing away one's life. Perhaps before they could find out the secret of Master Matado, they would already be killed. Now that the entire ruins was big enough, there was not only a top sacred medicine like the enlightenment flower. If they looked carefully, they could also find other top sacred medicines. There was no need for them to risk their lives to find trouble with Master Matado. Because so many ancient dragons died, it has also proved that Master Matado has the qualifications to obtain the enlightenment flower. 3-year-old children swaggered in the market with gold. Naturally, it would also arouse the greed of countless people with ulterior motives. But if it was a 2-meter tall strong man with a steel sword holding gold, it was guaranteed that not many people would dare to covet it. This was the difference between the two. Only the strong could deserve the top treasures. And during this time, Master Matato's achievements could fully prove this point. Because of this, except for some hotheads, there were fewer and fewer dragons in the entire ruins who went to find trouble with Xiaoping. They were also afraid of Xiaoping's strength. At this time, Xiaoping, under the leadership of Fate Dragon Betty and Invisible Dragon Kalita, searched everywhere in the ruins for treasures. Haha, those stupid, good-for-nothing dragons don't dare to come. Let's see who else can stop this dragon from searching for treasures. Fate Dragon Betty was proud. She felt that it was cool to have adult dragons supporting her. She could completely rely on her master's power. No dragon could bully her, and she could completely walk unhindered in the ruins. Before, those dragons who wanted to find trouble were all killed by the adult dragons, so now, it was those good-for-nothing dragons who ran away in fear when they saw her. The situation was completely reversed. Adult dragon, we have helped you search for a lot of treasures. Can you give us the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass? Invisible Dragon Kalita looked at Xiaoping expectantly. Fate Dragon Betty was the same, because the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass could improve their bloodline. It was very important. As for the Enlightenment Flower, it was too precious. It would be a waste to give it to them. Of course, Xiaoping would not give it to them. Well, you have indeed contributed a lot. Then this Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass is yours. After thinking about it, Xiaoping felt that although the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass was very precious, it would only be of great use to the dragon race. For him, as a human, it was actually not very useful. Moreover, he already had the Hell Golden Crow bloodline. It would be a waste to get the ancestral dragon bloodline. Moreover, it was just a Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass. It contained pitifully little ancestral dragon bloodline. That's great. Fate Dragon Betty and Invisible Dragon Kalita were extremely excited. They received the Crimson Blood Dragon Divine Grass from Xiaoping. Their little eyes filled with excitement as they cheered joyfully. Is it time? Suddenly, Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. He felt the invisible dragon in his hand tremble slightly, and a huge amount of information immediately surged into the depths of his sea of consciousness. It was as if the information was telling him that he had passed the test and could enter the core cave of Invisible Dragon Theodore. Chapter 2468. Am I still unable to enter the core cave abode for the time being? Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. According to the invisible token, he had passed the first round of the test. However, he would have to wait for the other dragons with the invisible token to complete the test if he wanted to enter the core cave abode. During this period, the invisible token would not reveal the specific geographical location of the holder. It even had the authority to teleport in the outer cave abode, and so on. This could be considered as giving the dragons who passed the test some privileges and a guarantee of safety. Looks like I still have to wait for some time, but it shouldn't take too long. At that thought, Xiaoping calmed down and quietly waited for the other dragons with the invisible token to complete the test. He estimated that it would take at least a month. However, this amount of time was nothing to him. By the way, I should take advantage of this time to improve my cultivation base as soon as possible. Xiaoping decided to go into seclusion for a period of time. He took out a time fruit. Recently, he had killed some primordial dragons and refined at least a dozen time fruits. Each time fruit contained extremely large amounts of energy and fragments related to the law of time. After devouring them, it would definitely be of great help to his cultivation base. Whoosh! At that thought, he immediately consumed the time fruit. Instantly, a large amount of origin energy surged into his limbs and bones and flowed into the 9 purple mansion spaces in his body. At the same time, the magic power in his body was also increasing. Most importantly, the spatial law fragments in his body were also increasing rapidly. Vaguely, Xiaoping sensed that huge spatial law fragments were condensing in the depths of his sea of consciousness. They kept piecing together, and the rich power of the spatial law surged back and forth in his body. He even sensed traces of the mystery of the law of time and seemed to have comprehended the mystery of the time dimension. Although it was only for a short period of time, it brought Xia Ping great benefits. Just like that, Xia Ping sat cross-legged in a cave, quietly devouring the huge amount of origin energy brought about by the fruit of time, as well as the huge amount of law comprehension it brought. At that moment, in the space of the mountain river Pearl, the giant dragons that Xia Ping had captured and put into the space of the mountain river Pearl also woke up one by one. They soon realized that they were no longer in the ruins or even in the dragon world. Damn it, what the hell is this place? Why is the heaven and earth spirit chi here so thin? I can't feel the rich dragon clan's origin energy at all. Many of the giant dragons were shocked. This was because the dragon realm was considered one of the top cultivation holy lands in the universe. The richness of the world spirit chi was not something the mountain river Pearl could compare with. Moreover, the dragon world's air also gave off dense dragon race origin energy, and by devouring it every day, it would be greatly beneficial to dragons' growth, increasing their cultivation efficiency and speed. However, the outside world did not have such origin energy. This made many dragons feel extremely uncomfortable. It was as if they had returned from a beautiful city with fresh air and beautiful scenery to a polluted city. The difference between the two was simply too great. Gee, what is this place? This is a prison. Since you've come here, you won't be able to leave this place for the rest of your lives. Just stay here obediently. At this moment, a voice came from the side. The one who spoke was the black dragon Pausda. He acted like a senior as he lectured the newcomers. Do you King know that I'm a middle immemorial dragon, and a great elemental dragon at that? How dare you speak to me in such a tone? An elemental dragon scolded. However, before it could finish speaking, the black dragon Pausda raised his hand and slapped it. With a smack, the elemental dragon was sent flying. It spun a few times in the air before falling to the ground, making it dizzy. I don't King care what middle immemorial dragon you are. You speak as if I'm not a middle immemorial dragon. Who doesn't have an awesome dragon here? When I was in the outside world, you weren't even born yet. Here, even a tiger has to lie down, and even a dragon has to lie down. There are no exceptions. Do you believe that I won't hang you up and expose you to the sun for 3 days and 3 nights? The black dragon Pausda scolded arrogantly. What? The other dragons who had just been caught were stunned, especially the elemental dragon that was sent flying by the slap. It was even more dumbfounded. Ever since it had advanced to the middle immemorial realm, it had never been hit by a dragon like this. Wait, where's my power? Why did it disappear? Where did it go? I've become an ordinary dragon? No, that's not right. My power is even weaker than an ordinary dragon. It's like a newborn dragon. Where did my power go? At this moment, the captured dragons suddenly realized that their power had completely disappeared. They couldn't even use the slightest bit of power in their bodies. Only now did they feel panic. If they had only been caught, they could still think of a way to escape. However, if they didn't even have power, they would truly be useless dragons. Even if they returned to the dragon world, they would live a miserable life. Especially if they encountered a former enemy dragon, they would probably live a life worse than death. Shut up. What's there to be noisy about? Since you've entered the prison, your power has naturally been sealed. Anyway, stop making noise. Now that the Lord is here, all of you better be more attentive. Don't embarrass me. The black dragon Pausda shouted. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the Fae, crow demon bird, and other primordial species flew over and landed on the ground. All the dragons held their breath and looked at this group of arrogant primordial species. Pausda, you've done well. It seems that the prisoners that were escorted here today are quite obedient. They aren't as noisy as the previous batch. You've made a great contribution. The Fae stood with his hands behind his back, showing the demeanor of an official. Then we have to thank Lord Fae for your guidance. Without Lord Fae's divine might, how could these useless dragons be so obedient? The black dragon Pausda flattered the Fae skillfully. The faces of the dragons that knew the black dragon Pausda twitched. This black dragon Pausda used to be so high-spirited. His might dominated the dragon domain that spanned thousands of light years. All the dragons dared to be angry, but didn't dare to say anything. Even the dragon god's shrine couldn't do anything to him. But now, after a few lessons, he quickly changed his attitude and became a pug. Not bad. It seems that you know how to behave. All right, from now on, you'll be the small leader of this place. You'll be responsible for managing these dragons. If there's any dragon that dares to cause trouble, immediately report it to me. The Fae nodded. Thank you, Lord Fae. Hearing this, the black dragon Pausda was overjoyed. He had become an official. Although his position was still lower than the Fae, it was much higher than these useless dragons. One could imagine that his treatment would also be improved a lot. Thinking of this, he wanted to work harder to manage these new dragons. If any of them dared to cause trouble, don't blame the black dragon Pausda for not showing mercy. Chapter 2469. In the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. Xiaoping had been cultivating in peace. After such a long time, he had finally devoured all the energy and the time law of a time fruit and mastered it thoroughly. He discovered that his cultivation had also improved greatly and was much stronger than before. He reckoned that if he consumed another 5 or 6 time fruits and completely devoured all the energy, his cultivation would advance to the near ancient perfection realm. By then, he would be able to break through to the middle ancient realm and comprehend the time law. Yes, the test is finally over. At this moment, Xiaoping's heart thumped. He immediately sensed a huge wave of information coming from the depths of the invisible token. It seemed that all the dragons who had obtained the invisible token had completed the test. Evidently, the crazy competition for the invisible token in the outside world had also ended. Although he had not walked around in the outside world for more than a month, he knew how crazy the battle for the invisible token was. Every time the position of the invisible token's holder was exposed, it would lead to a frenzied massacre. Moreover, the invisible token's holders did not have invincible power like Xiaoping. Being surrounded by a dozen Middle Ancient dragons, they would immediately fall into a fatal crisis. If they did not want to die, they could only discard the invisible token on them. Even so, countless dragons had died fighting for the formless medallion. Should I enter the core cave abode? In an instant, Xiaoping sensed a gentle, spatial energy coming from the invisible token, as if it wanted to teleport his entire body away from this place. However, after he left, he grabbed with his hand and immediately used Zhuang Zhou Dream Butterfly, causing Destiny Dragon Betty and Invisible Dragon Kalita to fall into a deep sleep. Then, he placed the 2 dragon whelps into the Mountain River Pearl space and temporarily settled them down. After all, he was going to enter the core cave abode next. He did not know what would happen inside. If he left the 2 dragon whelps in the outer cave abode, they would be in danger. Therefore, he first placed the 2 dragon whelps into the Mountain River Pearl space. That way, he would be absolutely safe. Even if he left the ruins, he would be able to bring them along. As for why he made the 2 dragon whelps faint, it was naturally because he could not let his secret be leaked. Boom! In an instant, the formless order transformed into a transparent spatial energy that wrapped around Xiaoping's body. The surrounding space distorted, and in an instant he was teleported away from his original spot. At the same time, in the outer ruins, the holders of the formless medallions also felt the same power. All of them were overjoyed, knowing that they were finally going to enter the core cave abode. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Within a few breaths, all the dragons that had passed the test were teleported into a vast space. Xiaoping also appeared in this place. Master Potato. When Xiaoping appeared, all the eyes of the dragons were focused on him. The name Master Potato reverberated in their ears like thunder. This kid shone brilliantly in the ruins. He was obviously the first dragon to have an invisible token, but under the pursuit of countless dragons, he was still safe and sound until now, which was enough to prove the strength of Master Potato. As the bearers of the formless tokens, they naturally knew how terrifying a being who could remain unscathed despite being chased by countless giant dragons and even kill other giant dragons. Even if this kid's current strength was only at the late near ancient stage, no dragon would dare to underestimate Master Mateto. Vaguely, they all regarded Master Mateto as their biggest competitor this time. Boom! Before they could say anything, suddenly, the void distorted in midair, and the phantom of formless dragon Theodore once again appeared in midair, still emitting its arrogant voice. Hee. Congratulations, young dragons. You've finally survived the slaughter of so many giant dragons and obtained the chance to obtain the ultimate treasure of me, the invisible dragon Theodore. You've also proven that you have the strength and talent to go through such a battle. However, passing the test of the Outer Ruins is only the first step. If you fail the next test, then you will not get any treasure, and it will all be for naught. This is because this dragon believes in one thing, and that is that there is only one king in the universe. Therefore, there can only be one dragon who wants to obtain this dragon's treasure, and the other dragons are all failures. Hearing this, all the dragons' eyes revealed a fiery light. To be honest, formless dragon Theodore's words just happened to be in line with their thoughts. Since there was such an amazing treasure, they naturally wanted to monopolize it. They were not children, and in the face of these treasures, they naturally wanted all of them. How could they be willing to share it with other dragons? Moreover, which dragon who had experienced such a tragic battle wasn't a proud son of heaven? Which one of them wasn't full of confidence? None of them thought that they would lose to other dragons. Of course, speaking of this, I believe you're also very curious about what this test is. Formless dragon Theodore cackled. Don't worry, this test isn't for you to kill each other. In fact, it's very simple. I just want you to play a game together. This core cave residence is actually a labyrinth that this dragon painstakingly created, a spatial labyrinth. The space inside is layered with 9 twists and turns, containing 190 million origin worlds. The paths inside are simply so complicated that even divine sense can't penetrate any of the walls. At this point, he paused for a moment before continuing. Your mission is very simple, and that is to find the exit of this spatial labyrinth. There is only one such exit, and whoever finds it first will be the winner of this game and the final successor of me, Formless Dragon Theodore. Of course, I'm not very confident in your strength, and it's also possible that none of you will succeed or find the exit. In that case, none of you will be able to obtain my final legacy. If no dragon is able to complete this game, then this game will continue to be played until this dragon's true inheritor is selected. Spatial Labyrinth. Hearing this, the dragon's hearts skipped a beat. They didn't expect the final test to be so simple, and they just had to find the exit of the labyrinth to succeed. Kiki, do you think this test is that simple? Formless Dragon Theodore seemed to have seen through their thoughts. But let me tell you this, if you choose the wrong path, you will walk into a dead end. In that dead end, you will trigger the traps I left behind. You will either be buried by abyssal venom, sent to the interlayer of a spatial storm, incinerated by doomsday flames, or struck to death by lightning. In short, you need to be careful when you enter the labyrinth. It's basically a dead end, and there's only one way out. If you choose the wrong way, you'll die. Chapter 2470. What? The dragons gasped when they heard that. They thought that the labyrinth was safe, but now it seemed to be a maze of death that was many times more dangerous than the first round. As long as they entered and chose a path, they would definitely die. It was not as simple as a slim chance of survival, but a slim chance of survival. For a moment, they felt uneasy and did not know what to do. TSK. Of course, if you want to leave now, you can teleport out of the Core Grotto Mansion and leave safely. However, once you enter the maze, unless you find the only way out, you will die for sure. Even if you don't get killed by the traps, you will be trapped here until the successor appears. Theodore's silhouette continued to chuckle. Of course, if the successor never appears, the dragons in the labyrinth will remain trapped. He gave the dragons 2 choices. The first was to fight to the death, but it was a slim chance of survival. The second was to give up on the inheritance and leave this place. In fact, this was not necessarily a bad thing. At the very least, They had obtained many treasures in the outer ruins, which could be considered a huge harvest. Sometimes, retreating was not necessarily a bad thing. Giving up was also a form of courage. It was smart to know one's limitations. For a moment, the dragons were silent. Their eyes flickered as they fell into deep thought. This was a difficult choice. That was because the invisible dragon's treasure was too attractive. Once obtained, it was equivalent to obtaining a bright path to the invincible realm and becoming a dragon that could rival a country in the dragon realm. No matter what identity it had in the past or what bloodline it had, the moment it obtained the inheritance, it would definitely become a pinnacle dragon and one of the top existences in the dragon realm. So I give up. At this moment, a giant dragon stood up and said helplessly, "I know my limits. This is a space maze built by a giant dragon that has reached the invincible realm. Even a giant dragon of the same level would have a headache if it were to come here. Moreover, I don't have a deep understanding of the law of space. If I enter, I'll probably be trapped until the end of time. There's no chance for me to find the only way out. In the outer ruins, I've obtained many treasures. To be honest, I've gained enough this time, so I don't need to continue risking my life to obtain this inheritance. That's why I choose to give up." Its expression was very calm, and it was obvious that it had made a decision. That's a smart choice. Only a dragon with self-awareness can live a long life. In that case, you should leave this place. The formless dragon, Theodore, waved its claw, and the dragon that had chosen to give up was teleported away. Following that, a few more giant dragons expressed that they had clearly given up on this competition. They were also self-aware and believed that it was impossible for them to pass through this mysterious space labyrinth. What a bunch of cowardly bandits. A great opportunity is right before your eyes, yet you don't even dare to fight for it. How laughable. Don't even tell others that you are from the dragon race. I fear that the other races will laugh at you. At this moment, a middle ancient dragon stood out and sneered without fear. If you don't fight for it, others will fight for it. If you don't fight for it, others will fight for it. If you don't fight for it, others will fight for it. This is the way of the world. If you don't move forward, you will fall behind. If you stay where you are, you will be left far behind by others. If you want to reach the peak, how can you do it without paying a price? Since you are afraid of death, don't come to the ruins. Anyway, I've lived enough in this life. There's no reason for me to let go of a chance to advance to the invincible realm. Another middle ancient dragon stood out as well. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen giant dragons expressed their desire to enter the labyrinth, choosing one of the paths and disappearing before the eyes of the other dragons. Not bad, not bad. It seems that there are some courageous dragons among the younger generation of the dragon race. The formless dragon Theodore cackled. He had remained neutral throughout, and it was his choice to give up or challenge. Even so, most of the giant dragons remained where they were, hesitating and not making a decision so quickly. It was as if they were observing what would happen after entering the labyrinth. Perhaps they could gain some experience from the experiences of the giant dragons who had entered the labyrinth. Interesting. Xiaoping stood among the dragons, saying nothing as well. Instead, he activated the golden crow's eyes of hell in an attempt to see through the space labyrinth created by the formless dragon Theodore. Under the vision of the golden crow's eyes of hell, the structure of the labyrinth was revealed to him. Just looking at the entrances alone, he discovered that there were more than 10 million of them. Each of the spatial entrances seemed to lead to a different area and into a different spatial world. Some of these spatial worlds were dangerous enough to destroy a saint, while others were safer. If one was unlucky, they would fall into a dangerous spatial world. In fact, this entrance was just the beginning. After entering, there would be many more forks in space, and there were thousands or even tens of thousands of them. Only one of them was safe. If one made the wrong choice, they would immediately fall into a trap and die. There were as many as 1 million similar forks in the labyrinth. Moreover, there was no pattern to these forks, and they were all messy and changing at every moment. Sometimes it would be one in 1 second, and another in the next. To find a truly safe spatial path, one must be extremely proficient in the laws of space, and sometimes a little bit of luck as well. Could it be that this fellow is choosing a dragon that's proficient in the laws of space as its successor? Does it also want to choose an invisible dragon as its successor? Xiaoping stroked his chin as he pondered over Theodore's thoughts. As a matter of fact, it was not impossible. As an invisible dragon, Theodore naturally had a good impression of other invisible dragons of the same race, and it was normal for him to choose an invisible dragon as his successor. Moreover, one's comprehension of the laws of space had to reach an extremely profound level in order to pass through the space labyrinth, or one would not be able to find a safe passage. But no matter what Theodore was thinking, this space labyrinth could not stump him at all with the golden crow's eyes of hell, and all spatial traps could not escape his eyes. With that thought, he did not hesitate and immediately flew into the labyrinth. Master Mateto has set off. The many dragons immediately saw the famous Master Mateto enter the space labyrinth. They knew that he might not give up, but they did not expect him to make a decision so quickly. Chapter 2471. This Master Mateto is really bold. Isn't he afraid of death? This is the space maze built by the invincible dragon Theodore. The purpose is to choose the true successor. How can it be so easy to pass through? Who knows? Maybe this Master Mateto has a trump card. Oh, a trump card? Which dragon here doesn't have a trump card? That's true, but the dragons who can pass the test are far more powerful than the dragons of the same rank, proud and arrogant, and think that they can do it. It's a pity if this Master Mateto dies in the space maze. Then won't his red blood dragon divine grass, enlightenment flower, and other holy medicines be lost in the maze? If so, then it's really a reckless waste of God's gifts. Many dragons were talking about it. They did not expect that this Master Mateto would really have the courage to risk his life to enter the maze. They were also a little worried. If this Master Mateto died in the maze, they were afraid that he would never be able to bring out his holy medicines, which would be a great waste. But no matter what, they couldn't stop him. Easy, it's too easy. Xiaoping put on the primordial magic treasure formless mask, hid his breath, and changed into the appearance of the invisible dragon. It seemed that at this moment he had become the son of space. He could easily perceive any space fluctuation and could easily integrate into the void. Coupled with the power of the formless mask, it was estimated that even a saint who had reached the invincible realm would not be able to perceive his existence. At the same time, he also operated his hell golden crow's eyes, understanding all the mysteries of this space maze. Even if a space fork appeared, it could not stop his action. Whoosh! His figure flashed, and he fell over, choosing the only safe space passage. Even the invisible dragon of the primordial realm could not have such a fast speed. He felt that this space labyrinth was created just for him. But the other dragons were not so lucky. Although they dared to enter the space maze, they also had a considerable degree of confidence in themselves. But the problem was that the space traps built by the invisible dragon Theodore were really beyond their imagination. Every time, the number of spatial forks that appeared was frightening and dazzling. Moreover, there were also many seemingly right but actually wrong spatial traps. If one were accidentally walk into one, they would either die or be injured. Some of the giant dragons accidentally took a wrong spatial path and immediately fell into a dark prison. Everywhere was filled with dark elements, like chaos. They couldn't break free, couldn't think, couldn't breathe, and seemed to be imprisoned in this place forever. Some dragons confidently chose one of the directions, but they ended up entering a fiery hell. This place burned with eternal and inextinguishable holy flames, which even dragon flames couldn't compare to. Even with the strength of an ancient Middle Realm cultivator, there was no way they could withstand the otherworldly flame. Within a few breaths of time, they would be burned to ashes. They wouldn't even have the time to use their magical treasures. Some of the dragons were very careful, but they still chose the wrong path. They fell into a world of ice and snow, and everywhere was filled with bone-chilling winds. In just an instant, the dragon's body was frozen, and even its soul was frozen. All that was left on the ground was a lifelike ice sculpture. Apart from that, many of the giant dragons that entered the spatial maze also met a tragic end. dying in various ways. At this time, at the end of the maze, there was a luxurious palace filled with treasures. A gigantic specter suddenly appeared on a tall throne, its body emanating a terrifying aura that could freeze time and space. If any other dragon were to enter this place, they would definitely be able to recognize the specter as the formless dragon Theodore. Haha, fools. What bunch of fools. At this moment, Theodore was sitting on the throne. Through the restrictive formation, he could easily see everything that was going on in the spatial maze. Not a single trace of a dragon could hide from him. These foolish juniors really think that I'm so kind as to hand over all my treasures. All of them belong to me, and no one can take them away. He was smug. If the dragons in the outside world saw this, they would definitely be shocked that the infamous formless dragon Theodore was still alive. In reality, Theodore had indeed heavily injured the formless dragon in the ancient war against the abyssal demons. No life could escape from a war that swept across the entire universe. Even the cunning and cowardly formless dragon Theodore was unable to escape. He was forced to participate in the war in the end and was heavily injured by a few abyssal demon kings, causing his soul to collapse. As a result, Theodore used his last breath to flee from the battlefield in a hurry. He returned to his lair in the dragon's realm in hopes of finding a way to save himself. Unfortunately, his wounds were just too heavy. Even after expending a tremendous amount of energy and countless treasures, he was unable to stop the gradual descent into death. Fortunately, he possessed a saint medicine he had obtained from the forbidden zone of darkness, the undying soul fruit. The fruit only had a single effect, which was to turn living beings into specters after death. No matter how heavily injured they were when they were still alive, they could be revived rapidly after ingesting it and become an undying specter. Originally, he did not want to turn into a specter if he had a choice, but he had no other choice in order to survive, so he could only ingest the fruit. And the result was also very smooth. At the moment of its death, all the curse, darkness, weakening, and karma power quickly disappeared, and its soul, under the power of the undying nether spirit fruit, was quickly reborn, turning into an undying spirit. The problem was that the fruit had a very great side effect. Once he became a specter, he would lose all of his power and could not cultivate anymore. He could only become an eternal existence like this until the end of time. Once he was discovered, he would probably be enslaved by others and suffer a miserable fate. Without strength, he would be like a fish on a chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered. However, Theodore had already thought of a second method to escape this predicament, which was to take over a dragon's body. He would use the power of an undying specter to take over the body of a dragon. That way, he would be able to revive in this world and continue to grow stronger. However, if he wanted to take over a dragon's body, it would not work if the body and soul were too powerful, or it would not work if the body was too weak, or the body would not be able to contain his soul. An invincible dragon would explode on the spot. After much thought, Theodore set up various laws in his dwelling to prevent dragons greater than ancient dragons from entering. Moreover, in order to select the soul of an invisible dragon that was suitable for it and select a dragon with extraordinary talent, it had also set up various conditions. Any dragon that could pass the screening was basically a veteran of hundreds of battles, had extraordinary talent, and had a powerful physical body. Chapter 2472. Kaka. This dragon isn't bad. It has a strong physique and can definitely withstand my soul. However, its talent isn't that great, and it's not worthy of my great invisible dragon. The invisible dragon Theodore pointed. That reflective dragon seems alright as well. It seems to be a special dragon with top-notch abilities that can reflect all energy and physical attacks. However, it's too ugly and affects my great image. That transparent dragon isn't bad. It has the special ability to be transparent, similar to my invisible dragon, but its combat ability is too weak. It's only suitable for sneak attacks, but its life-saving abilities are top-notch. It could be used as a backup dragon. It watched as the dragons entered the maze one after another, carefully selecting the ones that could carry its body. The reason it had set up so many traps in the maze was so that the dragons would fall into a state of near death, so that they would have no power to resist its possession. To be honest, it did not intend to let any giant dragon pass its labyrinth test. The entire labyrinth was under its control, even if a dragon could really pass the labyrinth. Even if there were dragons that could pass it, it could still manipulate the restrictions of the maze to blast the other party to death or grievously injure them. In short, everything was under the control of the great invisible dragon Theodore. Kaka, the final victor of this universe, is still me, the great Theodore. The invisible dragon cackled, revealing a treacherous expression. Asterisk boom. Asterisk just then, as the invisible dragon Theodore was carefully selecting the dragons on the screen, the palace doors were suddenly forced open and a figure flew in. It was none other than Xiaoping, who had easily passed the maze test. The invisible dragon Theodore was dumbfounded. It stared blankly at Xiaoping, who had suddenly barged in, unable to say anything as if its brain had gone haywire. It would never have imagined that such a dragon would appear at such a critical moment. To be honest, Xiaoping was also shocked at the moment. He did not expect a silly phantom dragon to appear at the end of the maze, and was even sitting on a strange chair. After all, shouldn't this palace be Theodore's lair? There should be no one here. Could it be that there was a dragon faster than him, beating him to the punch? If that was the case, wouldn't it mean that all his efforts were in vain? One dragon and one human. They just stared at each other, seemingly unable to say anything. It was quiet for a long time. In the end, it was Xiaoping who broke the silence. Is this the palace of the formless dragon, Theodore? Yes, yes. Theodore answered instinctively. But halfway through his answer, he realized that something was amiss and yelled. And no, how did you barge in? It was simply insane. According to its estimation, no dragon should be able to pass its labyrinth test. Moreover, under its constant monitoring, even if there really was a dragon with such an ability, it would be immediately discovered and killed in the cradle. But what was going on? The trial had not even started for a long time. How could this dragon pass through the labyrinth that he had painstakingly created without making a sound? That didn't make sense. Even if this brat really had such an ability, it was impossible for him to escape from its senses under its surveillance. But what was going on now? But how could the formless dragon Theodore know that there was a primordial magic treasure in this universe called the Faceless Mask that could change one's form and conceal one's aura? With such an ability, even a saint who had reached the invincible realm would not be able to detect it. Not to mention that Theodore, who had turned into a phantom dragon, had lost too much of its strength. Faced with Xiaoping's speed and ability, it could not detect anything at all. Therefore, unknowingly, Xiaoping easily passed the test and arrived at the end of the labyrinth, the palace of the invisible dragon. Did I just walk in like that? Now that I've passed the test, can I obtain the treasures and inheritance of the formless dragon? Xiaoping asked. Pass the test, my ass. You're cheating, do you know that? Get out of this place right now. The treasures of the formless dragon aren't something a weak dragon, like you can lay a finger on. How could the formless dragon Theodore tolerate the fact that the evil dragon wanted his treasures? He immediately cursed and wanted to drive the kid out. What a joke. Everything in this treasure belonged to him, and no one could take it away. A little phantom dragon dares to be so arrogant with me? Be a good boy and get lost. Xiaoping cast a sidelong glance at it. Why would he care about the threat of the little phantom dragon? He immediately attacked. Hell's magical power, soul-binding chain. This was one of the Hell's magical powers that he had obtained after killing some nether ghosts and demons in the Hell plane. It had a great restraining effect on souls. In the blink of an eye, a black chain condensed from the power of Hell appeared. Each chain was engraved with hellish characters and emitted an unfathomable aura that could lock one's soul. Any soul would have nowhere to hide in the face of this chain. Dawn. In just an instant, the specter dragon did not know what had happened. The soul-binding chain immediately rushed over and pierced through the specter dragon's body, binding it tightly and making it unable to move. Even all of the phantom dragon's power was sealed by the soul-binding chain, and it could no longer run rampant. "Oh, damned junior dragon, you dare treat the mighty formless dragon Theodore like this? You're dead, you're dead. Do you understand?" The phantom dragon immediately screamed. How could it have imagined that the kid would act so quickly? It didn't even have the chance to activate the restriction formation and kill the kid. But in just an instant, it was completely controlled and sealed. The soul-binding chain even emitted electric currents from time to time, making it feel numb all over, as if it was being tortured. Although it wouldn't die for now, the pain was unbearable. Formless dragon Theodore? Interesting. You're not dead, but have become a phantom dragon? Xiaoping's eyes lit up when he heard this. He felt like he had discovered some great secret. "No, you heard wrong. You heard wrong. How could I be Theodore? He died countless epochs ago." The phantom dragon Theodore immediately became vigilant. It laughed awkwardly and repeatedly denied it. If this junior dragon found out that it was the formless dragon Theodore, then it would be completely finished. But these words were basically a lie. How could Xiaoping believe such nonsense? He immediately used the soul-binding chain to interrogate it. Chapter 2473. Xiaoping tortured the specter dragon for 2 hours. Although the specter dragon was reluctant to admit its identity at first, it could not withstand the torture and could only admit that it was Theodore, the formless dragon. Moreover, it had no choice but to reveal the true purpose of the assessment. Interesting. You want to possess another dragon just by relying on your specter dragon? Xiaoping gave it a sidelong glance. What kind of look is that? How dare a little junior like you speak to the great invisible dragon Theodore like that? Do you know that I could kill hundreds of you with one finger when I was at my peak? The invisible dragon Theodore bristled at those words. Such a look was looking down on dragons. After all, it was once one of the top beings in the universe. Although it was a little timid, its strength was not for show. Judging by your appearance, I don't think you got there through hard work, but by taking pills. You're completely fake. Xiaoping said disdainfully. How do you know? The invisible dragon Theodore was shocked. It was true. Based on its temperament and strength, it should not have been able to reach the invincible realm and comprehend the laws of life and death. However, it was an invisible dragon with great luck, able to enter and exit all kinds of dangerous situations at any time. During one of its adventures in the dark forbidden zone, it actually found a precious divine medicine. After taking it, it naturally advanced to the invincible realm and comprehended the laws of life and death. The problem was that the strength it gained through taking pills made it the lowest existence among the invincible realm saints. Only its ability to escape was top-notch, but its combat strength could not keep up. Even so, it could easily crush all dragons under the invincible realm. Therefore, in the war, it specialized in bullying those whose realm was lower than its own. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, when the real battle came, it could no longer play tricks, and its true strength was revealed. Haha, I can see the essence of life at a glance. From the first time I met you, I knew you were a complete loser. Xiaoping stood with his hands behind his back. The invisible dragon Theodore was so angry that his face turned green. He wanted to strangle the bastard. All right, enough with the nonsense. Tell me how to control this palace. With a single glance, Xiaoping could tell that the invisible dragon's palace was a sacred artifact. Moreover, it was a peerless sacred artifact, a priceless treasure. If he could control this palace, it would be equivalent to completely controlling the invisible dragon's core immortal cave. In fact, the reason why the invisible dragon Theodore was able to flee so quickly on the battlefield back then was because of this supreme quality saint artifact, the Formless Hall. It was equivalent to many years of hard work. The invisible palace was a flying, spatial magic treasure. It often used the invisible palace to travel around and explore all kinds of secret realms. It could travel through space at will and penetrate all kinds of restrictive arrays. Furthermore, its defensive abilities were also extremely powerful. It could resist soul attacks and physical attacks, and it could weaken them by more than 90%. Even if it encountered the attack of an invincible realm saint, it could resist for a long time. Moreover, if the situation was not good, it could escape at any time, merging into the depths of the void, making it impossible for others to catch it. It could be said that the invisible dragon had simply forged the palace into a tortoise shell. It was hundreds of times more powerful than the stars on Xiaoping's body. It was a true, life-saving artifact. Dream on, you must be dreaming. This is the palace of the great invisible dragon Theodore, the formless hall. How could it be controlled by a despicable junior dragon like you? You must be dreaming. The invisible dragon Theodore bared his fangs and brandished his claws. This was his life savings, and it was not enough to describe the treasures stored here. How could he be willing to let it go? Not to mention the treasures in the palace. Just the peerless sacred artifact, the formless hall, was a priceless treasure. If it was released to the outside world, who knew how many holy dragons would fight to the death for it? Even invincible realm dragons would not care about their pride and personally try to snatch it. Is that so? Xiaoping gave him a sidelong glance. Crackle, crackle, but before the invisible dragon could say anything, Xiaoping gently waved his hand, triggering the punishment power of the soul-binding chain. In an instant, the invisible dragon Theodore cried out in pain. Master, I was wrong. The formless hall belongs to you. After being electrocuted, the invisible dragon Theodore knew what to do. He immediately expressed his willingness to cooperate and hand over the method to refine the formless hall. It showed the look of a loyal pug. After all, he had no choice but to lower his head when under the eaves. He was no longer the famous invisible dragon Theodore, but a mere resurrected, useless phantom dragon. How could he be a match for this hateful junior dragon? If he continued to resist stubbornly, he would probably be punished miserably. Hateful junior dragon, just you wait. I'll let you be complacent for now. When I find a chance to get rid of you, I'll definitely get my revenge. Just you wait. The invisible dragon, Theodore, gnashed his teeth. He wanted nothing more than to capture this hateful fellow and give him a good beating. He decided that he would kill this fellow once he recovered his strength. No, he couldn't kill him. He couldn't let him off so easily. He should imprison him and make him work all day as his servant. He could beat and scold him whenever he wanted. Not bad. Xiaoping was very satisfied when he heard that Theodore had handed over the method to refine the peerless saint artifact Formless Hall. He knew that the method was genuine. This fellow was very sensible and didn't lie. With that thought in mind, he walked up to the dragon throne that Theodore had been sitting on. This throne was the core formation of the palace, and as long as he could refine it, the control of the palace would belong to him. Boom! His immense magic energy and powerful consciousness immediately seeped into the throne, completely expelling the spiritual imprint left behind by the invisible dragon Theodore. If it was still the spiritual imprint left behind by the invincible dragon Theodore, he naturally wouldn't be able to expel it so easily. The problem was that the invisible dragon Theodore had died a long time ago, and had only come back to life with the undying nether soul fruit. Therefore, the original spiritual imprint had long since collapsed. The one refining the palace was only the spectral dragon Theodore, and the spiritual imprint left behind by the spectral dragon Theodore was too weak. In fact, it was even weaker than a sempiternal realm dragon. That was also why he could easily expel the spiritual imprint and replace it with his own. Whoosh, in an instant, Xiaoping sensed that his soul had permeated the entire formless hall and gained control over all of the palace's formations. He felt as if he had reached the realm of becoming one with the artifact, and he knew the artifact like the back of his hand. Chapter 2474. I see. After refining the formless palace, Xiaoping immediately understood the peerless saint artifact like the back of his hand. He could sense that the peerless saint artifact had a total of 3 abilities. The first was dimensional escape. In times of emergency, it could instantly flee into another dimension and traverse across 3,000 worlds. No laws could restrain it, allowing it to move extremely quickly. The second was void concealment. It could conceal one's presence and stay in the void of space. In this state, no living being would be able to discover the existence of the formless palace. Of course, it could not attack others either, or it would immediately be exposed. The third was space-time defense. It could weaken an enemy's attacks to the greatest extent, be it physical or soul attacks. Anything that did not exceed the limits of the Formless Palace's defenses would be completely immune. Even if it exceeded the Formless Palace's defenses, it could weaken over 90% of the enemy's attacks. The palace could be described as a tortoise's shell, a war fortress that would never fall. Apart from that, the Formless Palace had no other abilities. Xiaoping was completely impressed by the invisible dragon Theodore after looking through these abilities. The word fear of death was used to the extreme. Every single ability of the Peerless Saint artifact was for escape and survival. It could be said that the Formless Palace had no other powers apart from its ability to protect itself. It was a powerful saint artifact forged after sacrificing its offensive capabilities. It was the pinnacle of defense. However, it had to be said that it was precisely because of this that it became one of the saints with the greatest ability to protect itself in the universe. There are not many saints who could kill it. Even with that being the case, there was basically no place in the universe that was safe in a war that involved the entire universe. It would still be hard for it to escape death. Even if it could just barely survive with the treasures it obtained from the Forbidden Zone of Darkness, it would only turn it into an undying specter, forever trapped in that state. However, this Peerless Saint artifact had completely benefited Xiaoping. With this Peerless Saint artifact, his defense would be so powerful that it would make one's hair stand on end. There probably wouldn't be many saints who could kill him if he went out with it. However, the artifact spirit of this Peerless Saint artifact seems to have been destroyed. Xiaoping squinted his eyes. He had originally wanted to communicate with the artifact spirit of the Peerless Saint artifact, but he discovered that the artifact spirit had already become an empty shell. It was as if during the War of the Primordial Era, even though the invisible dragon Theodore had fled for his life, the shockwaves still managed to kill the artifact spirit of the Invisible Palace, causing its soul to perish. If that wasn't the case, it wouldn't have been so easy for him to refine this supreme grade saint weapon. Looks like there are only two ways to make this supreme quality saint artifact recover to its peak condition. The first is to nurture a new artifact spirit, but this method will require a large amount of time and effort. It won't be effective in a short period of time. Xiaoping rubbed his chin. The second method is to find another weapon spirit and fuse it into this supreme grade sacred weapon, completely replacing it. To tell the truth, he felt that the second method was very feasible, and he just happened to have such a tool spirit by his side, Corinne. Corinne, as one of the top brains in the universe, after years of training, is actually no different from a tool spirit. Moreover, if Corinne becomes the Invisible Palace's artifact spirit, Corinne's life level will also increase, and he can rest assured to hand over the Invisible Palace to him. Corinne, thinking of this, he immediately told his idea to Corinne, wanting to see what it thinks. If Corinne doesn't want to, he won't force it. What did you say? I have the opportunity to become the tool spirit of a supreme grade saint weapon, and you're asking me whether I want to or not. Isn't this nonsense? You want a beggar to be the emperor. Let's see whether he is willing or not. After hearing these words, Corinne immediately became excited, extremely excited, because for it, this was simply an eternal opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Although it is the top brain in the universe, but even so, it is still at the bottom of the universe because it has no way to grasp any power. It only has auxiliary ability, nothing more. It is only suitable to be a ghost in the virtual network, and outside the network world, anyone can bully it. But now it is different. If it can become the tool spirit of a supreme grade saint weapon, it would simply be like changing a bird gun to a cannon, instantly grasping the top power in the universe. This is equivalent to standing at the peak of all magic weapons, which idiot would be willing to refuse? Damn it! Hearing this, Azure Ox gnashed its teeth in anger, extremely jealous. It had gone through untold hardships and spent God knows how many resources to upgrade its magic weapon to the level of a high-grade saint weapon, and upgrading it to a supreme grade saint weapon was still a long way off in the foreseeable future. But now, this idiot Corinne, without doing anything, unexpectedly became the tool spirit of a supreme grade saint weapon. If this isn't dog shit luck, then what is it? This is too enviable. However, it also knows that it is not suitable to become the tool spirit of the invisible palace. After all, it is already the tool spirit of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers, and has long since fused with this magic weapon, deeply rooted and difficult to get rid of. Since you are willing, that is for the best. Hearing this, Xiaoping immediately felt relieved, and without any hesitation, he grabbed Corinne's soul with his big hand, formed a seal with both hands, and integrated it into the core restriction array of the invisible palace. Rumble. In an instant, Corinne's soul integrated into the core of the invisible palace. As the top AI in the universe, its computing ability could be said to be first class. It sensed countless law information transmitted from the depths of the invisible palace, just like a torrent. Even as the top AI in the universe, it was almost unable to handle this huge flow of information and was on the verge of crashing. But with Xiaoping's help, it instantly controlled the power of the invisible palace, allowing Corinne to slowly grasp all the power of laws inside this supreme grade saint weapon. After half an hour, Corinne finally woke up, and his pair of cat eyes emitted a frightening radiance, seemingly flowing with countless law information, and indistinctly, countless law chains entangled with each other, brewing in the depths of his pupils. "How is it?" Xiaoping curiously asked. "Very good. I feel better than ever." "Is this the feeling of having power?" Corinne was very excited. "I have already grasped the initial control of this supreme grade saint weapon, and can also mobilize a part of the space-time power. However, it will still take a long time to completely grasp this supreme grade saint weapon, but it is only a matter of time." It felt that this was an unprecedented, wonderful feeling, coming out of the virtual world and coming to the real world, grasping the top power of laws in the universe, and each and every one of its movements was like that of a creator. It seemed that at this moment, it had obtained a new life, evolving from a virtual character into a living being with a corporeal body. Chapter 2475. It's over, it's all over, it's all over. The formless dragon Theodore's face turned green at the sight of this. He was furious. He had left behind a trap in the restrictive formation inside the invisible palace, so that he could catch this shameless bastard off guard after he recovered his strength. However, he did not expect this kid to create an artifact spirit out of thin air and completely control and replace his natal artifact, the invisible palace. This way, the little tricks he left behind in the invisible palace would be useless. As long as the artifact spirit took complete control of the invisible palace, his trump card would definitely be exposed. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. He had worked so hard for so long, only to end up benefiting someone else. He could not accept this. Hee, Xiaoping, there are a lot of treasures stored in this palace. We've hit the jackpot. Corinne mischievously laughed, feeling very proud of himself. Oh, what treasures are stored? Xiaoping naturally knew that this place was Invisible Dragon Theodore's lair and core cave residence, so it was only natural that a lot of treasures were stored here. I'll transmit the information inside to your sea of consciousness, and you'll know what treasures are stored in this place. Corinne immediately transmitted a message to Xiaoping's sea of consciousness. Whoosh! In an instant, many images appeared in Xiaoping's sea of consciousness, and the situation inside the invisible palace's treasure vault was completely displayed in front of him. Oh my God, Soundstone! There's so many Soundstone in this place. First, he noticed a large number of Soundstones stored in a warehouse. There were so many of them that they could not be measured in kilograms, but in tons. There were at least 1,000 tons stored in a warehouse alone. Such a number would be terrifying if it was made known to others. He remembered that when he tried to exchange for some Soundstone in the Holy Land of Taichu, he had to spend a lot of points and put in a lot of effort just to obtain a few Soundstone. But now, there were more than 1,000 tons stored in this warehouse alone. He did not know how long it would take to use them all. He felt that he could use these Soundstones to upgrade his Bell of Chaos to a peerless sacred artifact. He would not need to look for more Soundstones after that. No, it's not just Soundstone. There are also many other precious ores, such as purple gold meteoric iron, duck flame stone, purple third iron, Tai gold, mysterious ice soul, ninth heaven cold steel, and so on. Xiaoping's eyes widened. No wonder Corinne said that he had made a fortune. Every single ore here was a cosmic treasure. Even a kilogram was priceless and couldn't be bought outside. These ores were basically all rare materials for forging peerless saint artifacts. If news of this were to spread, it would be enough to drive every saint crazy. Even invincible saints would try to snatch them. Not only are there precious ores here, there are also many top-notch sacred herbs planted here. The green ox also received the information transmitted by Corinne. He paid special attention to those top-notch sacred medicines. After seeing a sacred medicine, he couldn't help but shiver. This is 7 Orifices' exquisite flower. My mother, this is a peerless sacred medicine between heaven and earth. After taking it, even a waste can obtain 7 Orifices' exquisite body, becoming one of the few powerful physiques between heaven and earth, becoming a top genius in the universe. With this 7 Orifices' exquisite body, you'll be able to pick up anything you want to learn in a short while, and you'll be able to deduce many things from one instance. You could be said to have an innate Tao body, and you'll be able to comprehend the laws of the universe several times faster than other life forms. What is this? Xiaoping pointed at a black fruit that was the size of a fist and had spiral patterns on its surface. It gave off an ominous aura, and if one looked at it for too long, they would feel as if their souls would be devoured. It was unfathomably deep. He felt that this fruit was not simple, but he could not recognize it. What is it? Oh my God, this is the misfortune divine fruit, one of the peerless divine medicines. It is said that it can only be produced in the forbidden dark areas. I'm afraid it is even more precious than the enlightenment flower. The green ox's heart was already twitching nonstop. He said while trembling, it's said that after consuming this fruit, there's a chance to successfully cultivate the misfortune battle physique. Once you succeed, you'll be able to naturally control the power of misfortune. Anyone who approaches you and is full of malice and hostility toward you will encounter different degrees of misfortune and misfortune. They will encounter all kinds of accidents, leading to serious injuries and death. Moreover, the more serious the malice, the heavier the misfortune. If it's serious, this misfortune will also involve the descendants within 3 generations. Everyone will encounter different degrees of misfortune, and sometimes even the extinction of 3 generations is possible. It's simply a lone star walking in the universe. You don't even need to do anything. Those who harbor malice will automatically die. It indicated that such a sage had once appeared in the universe. He was known as the misfortune sage. He had consumed the misfortune divine fruit. Wherever he went, all the races in the universe would avoid him. He could be called a human-shaped disaster. Not bad, not bad. Xiaoping touched his chin. Although this misfortune divine fruit didn't have much effect on him, if he gave birth to a descendant, he could let him consume it. At that time, perhaps a disaster would appear in the universe. Oh, what's that? He also saw a strange black flower that seemed to contain an unfathomable power of darkness. Skeletons seemed to appear on every petal. Vaguely, it also contained the power of the laws of darkness. Master, this is the origin demon flower. The green ox was already numb from the shock. This is also a peerless sacred herb. It's priceless, a cosmic flower that only appears once every 10 million epochs. If someone consumes this origin demon flower, they'll be able to quickly cultivate the origin demon body. This is one of the most powerful constitutions in the universe. It's innately compatible with the power of the demonic path and the power of darkness. The more they fight, the stronger they become. They're known as the ancestors of the demonic path. He didn't even know what he should say. Although he knew that there were countless treasures in the core cave abode, and that it was the life savings of an invincible sage, he didn't expect it to be this exaggerated. Any random sage herb he took out was the kind that could shock the universe. Just how many treasures did the invisible dragon Theodore loot? Back then, the invisible dragon had probably relied on its innate ability and the peerless sacred artifact, the formless palace, to enter into countless precious and strange places and steal from the treasuries of countless sages to accumulate so many treasures. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the invisible dragon was one of the richest sages in the universe. The wealth of its previous master, the Mountain River Sage, was nothing compared to Theodore's. Chapter 2476. Xiaoping, Corinne, and the Green Ox were all very excited after going through the treasures in the Invisible Palace. Although the invisible dragon Theodore had used many sacred medicines and elixirs to heal his injuries, he still left behind many treasures in the Invisible Palace. Any one of them could cause great waves in the outside world and even start a war. What's this? Finally, Xiaoping discovered a transparent pearl the size of a basketball on the ground near the dragon throne. The pearl exuded a rich, spatial aura, and with a boom, he sensed that the pearl was all-encompassing, as if it contained the entire world and the complete laws of the universe. He sensed that the interior of the pearl was boundless and larger than the space of the pearl of mountains and rivers. It also contained an extremely rich dragon origin aura that was unfathomably deep. A dragon core. Thinking of this, Xiaoping's eyes lit up. He immediately remembered what this bead was. It must be the dragon core left behind by the dragon sages after they died. He had killed some giant dragons in the past, and they had also left behind dragon cores after they died. However, the world tree had directly devoured them and refined them into fruits before turning them into ashes. The energy contained in the transparent pearl was many times more powerful than any dragon core he had seen before, and the gap between the two couldn't be measured by distance. He was certain that the transparent bead was the dragon core left behind by the invisible dragon Theodore after his death. Although the invisible dragon Theodore had turned into a phantom dragon, it was only a transformation of his soul. His physical body was completely dead, rotting and disintegrating, leaving behind only a dragon core. What a treasure! Xiaoping clenched his fists. This was a dragon core left behind by a holy dragon that had reached the invincible realm. Although the invisible dragon Theodore was a fake, it was still a life form that had once reached the invincible realm. Such a life form had surpassed everything and stood at the pinnacle of the universe. The dragon core left behind by such a life form's life essence was unimaginable in terms of value. Damn it, that shameless thief. The invisible dragon Theodore regretted his actions so much that his intestines turned green. Why did he have to participate in a trial for no reason? He should have killed these dragons as soon as he entered and put an end to all troubles. Now, this shameless bastard had entered his palace and plundered all the treasures that belonged to him, even taking away the dragon core he had left behind after his death. It felt as if it had become a pauper, penniless and miserable. Now, it could slightly understand the feelings of those sages whose treasures had been stolen by it in the past. This kind of feeling was simply F***ed up and cannot be described with words. Could it be that this was retribution? He had done so many bad things that the heavens sent this bastard to take away the treasures that he had painstakingly accumulated over the years. Master, I've struck gold. I've struck gold. I can sense that this dragon core is extremely beneficial to me. If I completely devour and fuse with it, I'll obtain the complete laws of the universe within this dragon core, and the orb of mountains and rivers will immediately undergo a world-shaking transformation. The Black Ox was so excited that he was incoherent. Originally, the difficulty of upgrading the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers to a peerless saint artifact was no less than that of upgrading from a primeval saint to an invincible saint. In fact, it might even be more difficult. He felt that even if he wanted to upgrade it, it would take him many years to do so. In fact, it might not even be possible in his lifetime. However, things were different now. The dragon core left behind by the invisible dragon Theodore contained the complete laws of the universe, as well as rich origin energy. Furthermore, it was of the spatial attribute. It could be said that this dragon core and the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers were extremely compatible. They were practically a match made in heaven. To be honest, the Black Ox felt that this was an eternally fortuitous encounter. After all, invincible dragons were extremely rare in the first place. They were as rare as phoenix feathers and Sheelan horns in the entire universe. Furthermore, the other party was a supreme ruler who had comprehended the laws of space, and he had coincidentally left behind such a precious dragon core. If this wasn't an eternally fortuitous encounter, then what was? There was no way he could obtain such a supreme treasure anywhere else. Something like that happened. In that case, this dragon core belongs to you. Xiaoping's heart skipped a beat. He didn't think that the dragon core would be so useful to the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. It could actually upgrade the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers to a peerless saint artifact. However, if the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers could be upgraded to a peerless saint artifact, the benefits it would bring him would naturally be endless. After all, the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers could be considered his home now. As such, the more powerful his home was, the better. Thank you, Master. However, I'm afraid I'll need your help later to completely refine this dragon core and fuse it into the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. The Black Ox couldn't wait any longer. He immediately grabbed the dragon core and placed it into the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. He then formed a seal with both hands and devoured the dragon core. That's naturally not a problem. Xiaoping nodded. He immediately immersed his mind into the space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers and reached the realm of being one with the artifact. It was as if the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers had become a part of his body. He could sense every corner of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers, as well as every restriction and formation. He formed a seal with both hands and circulated the tremendous power in his body. The 9 purple palace spaces trembled as they immediately poured into the depths of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers that had received Xiaoping's help was immediately injected with adrenaline. A vast world of flames immediately surged out from the depths of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. It seemed to have transformed into a dimension of fire as the Hellfire Golden Crow burned fiercely. The dragon core that came from the invisible dragon Theodore was currently being burned by the Hellfire Golden Crow. Normally, a dragon core like this would be very difficult to destroy. It was as sturdy as a peerless saint artifact. However, under the scorching heat of the Hellfire Golden Crow, the dragon core still melted at a speed visible to the naked eye and was converted into a vast amount of origin energy. The surroundings were also exuding a rich dragon origin aura. Every drop of liquid seemed to not only contain rich origin energy, but also a universal law. There is nothing in this universe that the Hellfire Golden Crow couldn't melt. There was no way the Black Ox would let this opportunity slip by. He rushed up excitedly and bit down on the dragon core, devouring all of the dragon core's origin energy. Immediately, the Black Ox felt that its body had undergone a tremendous change. Vast amounts of universal law information surged into its sea of consciousness as if it was communicating with the universe's origin. At this moment, it seemed to have obtained all of the invisible dragon Theodore's comprehension of the laws. It seemed to have received all of the invisible dragon Theodore's inheritance and enlightenment. The Pearl of Mountains and Rivers also underwent a complete transformation. Chapter 2477. First, it was the laws of the universe inside the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. After obtaining all the information of the laws of the universe from the invisible dragon Theodore's dragon core, the laws of the world inside the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers were immediately perfected. Countless laws of the universe filled in and perfected the laws of the universe. This was also the first step for a superior grade saint artifact to become a supreme grade saint artifact. Universe laws emerged from within the bead of mountains and rivers. There were a total of 3,000 universe laws. Each universe law was like a giant dragon. The 3,000 dragons wrapped around the entire bead of mountains and rivers like chains of order. They intertwined with each other and formed a part of the bead of mountains and rivers. Immediately, the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers underwent a huge transformation. Originally, it was just a broken world, but now it was different. It immediately transformed into a complete world, endlessly growing and devouring the energy of the origin of the universe, forming a complete cycle. And this transformation was just the beginning. After making up for all the laws of the universe in the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers, the huge amount of dragon origin energy inside the dragon core was also released. This was the energy essence of a saint who had once reached the invincible realm. Even though a lot of this energy essence had been lost because of the great battle, the energy inside the dragon core was still quite frightening. The energy of dozens of sectors might not be comparable to it. After all, the birth of every invincible realm saint was a miracle of the universe. There was a limited number of them, and it was unknown how many resources were needed to advance. Rumble, in an instant, because the dragon core had melted, it turned into drops of dragon origin energy. It was like raindrops sprinkling in every corner of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. Suddenly, the entire space of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers was rained, and it went on for 7 days and 7 nights. The raindrops covered almost every inch of soil and permeated every corner of the space. All the creatures living in the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers received great benefits. After obtaining this huge amount of origin energy, the space inside the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers was also expanding, and expanding, until it was more than 10,000 times larger than before. At this moment, the mountains grew taller. Towering mountains could be seen everywhere, reaching into the clouds, with no end in sight. The rivers became wider, and they were like giant dragons, lying across the earth, crisscrossing and running through the past and present. The valleys were deep, the seas were surging, and the deserts were dark. Even every plant in this world was becoming larger, as if they were adapting to the ever-expanding world of the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers. This drastic change was simply unprecedented. It was as if the evolution of hundreds of billions of years of life had happened in a short 7 days and 7 nights, and all the creatures in the Pearl of Mountains and Rivers received different degrees of benefits. I've advanced. After an unknown amount of time, Xia Ping's body trembled. He felt the bead of mountains and rivers in his hand immediately change. All of its power had reached its peak. Boom! At that moment, the pearl that was initially the size of a fist suddenly turned into the size of a book. It was also only the size of a palm, but it emanated an unfathomable aura. It could be said that it had become completely different now. Its strength had increased by who knew how many times. It was simply a geometric increase. This book had a total of 33 pages, representing the 33 heavens. It was as if every page of the book was a great thousand world. Each great thousand world was incomparably huge, rich in species and resources, and the density of the heaven and earth spiritual chi was also more than 1,000 times higher than before. It seemed to be able to communicate with the origin of the universe at all times, devouring the energy of the origin to strengthen the internal space of this book, causing the living beings in the space world to grow stronger every moment. Wonderful, wonderful, truly wonderful. Xia Ping's heart trembled. He could feel that the book in his hand was many times stronger than the bead of mountains and rivers from before. A casual smashing of it could cause a page to fly out, and it could crush a great thousand world. This was like a collision between worlds, producing intense destructive power. Moreover, the internal space of this book was also extremely sturdy, the kind that was indestructible. If it were before, perhaps the primordial sages would be able to completely tear the world of the bead of mountains and rivers apart if they entered. All the space would be destroyed, and it would be impossible to resist. However, it was different now. The internal world of this book was terrifyingly sturdy. Even if an invincible sage were to enter, he would not be able to destroy it in a short period of time. As for other sages, there was no need to mention. Once they entered, they would be trapped until they died. It was like an unbreakable prison. Master! At that moment, the green bull also went through an earth-shattering change. Although it was still a bull, its body had condensed into a substance, as if it had a body of flesh and blood. However, this was not a true body of flesh and blood. In the eyes of Xia Ping's golden crow of hell's eyes, this body was condensed from the power of 3,000 laws. Every meridian, every blood vessel, every bone, and every inch of flesh and blood was condensed from the power of laws. This was a body of laws. It could be said that the weapon spirit Green Bull was no different from any other ordinary living being. Even if it were to leave the body of a supreme grade saint weapon, it could still survive independently. In fact, it even possessed a formidable battle prowess. Master, now that the bead of mountains and rivers has leveled up, it has completely leveled up to the level of a supreme grade saint weapon. I'm afraid that the name bead of mountains and rivers is no longer suitable for it. Master, please change its name. The Green Bull felt that it was time for it to bid farewell to the past. Leveling up to a supreme grade saint weapon was a new beginning, the birth of a new era, and the start of a new legend. Change its name? That's right. Right now, it's no longer a bead, but a book. It's no longer suitable for it to continue being called the bead of mountains and rivers. Since that's the case, I'll call it the classic of mountains and seas. Xia Ping rubbed his chin and changed the name of this treasure to the classic of mountains and seas. Thank you for the name, Master. Hearing that, the Green Bull gently swiped across the surface of the book. Immediately, the three golden words classic of mountains and seas appeared on the surface of the book. It was like the words of gold and jade, forming the power of laws. It was as if the three words had been engraved into the depths of the treasure and could no longer be changed. Not bad. Xia Ping immediately felt very satisfied. He felt that the treasure he had was not much different from the real classic of mountains and seas. First of all, there was a huge spatial world inside. There were also countless species living in it, as well as a large number of precious plants. It was a complete world. The only downside was that the species in the world of the classic of mountains and seas were not rich enough. Compared to the real world, there was still a huge gap. Looks like I'll have to capture some rare species in the future and put them in the world of the classic of mountains and seas. That way, the classic of mountains and seas will truly become a primordial world. Xia Ping rubbed his chin. He felt that this was very feasible. Right now, he had already captured many dragons and put them in. If he captured some other species, such as phoenixes, kirins, tautais, black tortoises, vermilion birds, and other divine beasts, there were also many primordial species. They would definitely make the species in the classic of mountains and seas more rich and colorful. In that way, he might be able to strengthen the power of the classic of mountains and seas. Chapter 2478. Meanwhile, in a primordial forest in the dragon world, Yi Mingyao, the dragon whelps, and Xia Ping's clone had been hiding in this place for some time. However, their lives were very comfortable. They did not have to worry about food and drink, and they could often log on to the virtual network to gather information. It was not a life of escape. Come on, it's time for us to go to the relic of the invisible dragon. At this time, the infernal golden crow, clone, opened its eyes. It sensed the message transmitted by Xia Ping's main body. Xia Ping had already taken complete control of all the restrictions and arrays in the ruins of the invisible dragon and could transmit everyone into the ruins. Although this primeval forest seemed to be sparsely populated, who knew how many holy dragons were proficient in tracking techniques in the dragon realm? If the other party really cared, Yi Mingyao and the others would definitely be tracked. Therefore, it was better for Yi Mingyao and the others to return to his side. Invisible Dragon's relic? Could it be that you've already taken control of the ruins? Hearing this, Yi Mingyao couldn't help but be shocked. How long had it been? Moreover, it was a relic left behind by an invincible realm saint, which contained many powerful restrictive formations. Even the dragons in the invincible realm didn't dare to go too deep in case they got hurt. But now Xia Ping had actually completely grasped it. It was truly unimaginable. Yes, the main body has completely grasped it. As long as we get close to the ruins of the invisible dragon, we can teleport you to the core area. We won't have to worry about being hunted down by other dragons. The golden crow of hell clone said in a deep voice. All right, Yi Mingyao nodded. Not to mention that she was a human. Her true identity could not be exposed. Even if she was a giant dragon, facing the covetous eyes of so many holy dragons, she was also in danger. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Without another word, the infernal golden crow clone immediately teleported away with Yi Mengyao and the others. To the clone, which had already reached the ancient realm and possessed 80% of the main body's strength, teleportation was a small matter. Moreover, the strength of this clone far surpassed most of the near ancient sages, and it could even contend against the middle ancient sages. It could teleport 800 light years in a second. Therefore, there were not many sages who could catch up to the golden crow of hell. It was also because of this speed that some of the evil divine dragons that tried to capture Yi Mengyao and the others were easily dodged by the infernal golden crow clone. It was impossible to catch up to them. Half a day later, under the guidance of the hell golden crow avatar, Yi Mengyao and the others finally approached the ruins of the invisible dragon. Buzz, as soon as they got close, the space around them suddenly fluctuated. It was like a black hole, swallowing Yi Mengyao and the others. In the next second, Yi Mengyao and the others entered the core immortal cave of the invisible dragon ruins. Betty, Kalita, Memory Dragon Mabel, Gluttonous Dragon Austin, Cloud Dream Dragon Tadish, and the other young dragons cried out in excitement when they saw Fate Dragon Betty and Formless Dragon Kalita. Since Xia Ping entered the ruins of the invisible dragon, they had not seen each other for a long time. Ha, did you see that? Did you see how amazing your big sister is? This place is the lair of the invisible dragon, Theodore. We've completely occupied it and made it our territory. Betty, the dragon of fate, was very pleased with herself. By then, Xia Ping had already woken up the unconscious destiny dragon Betty and formless dragon Kalita, indicating that he had completely occupied Theodore's territory. Wow, this is amazing. This palace is really luxurious. My God, what kind of treasure is this? So many jewels, mine all mine. We're rich. We're really rich this time. The young dragons were very excited, and they all cried out when they saw the peerless sacred artifact, the formless palace. Some of the young dragons saw the jewels engraved on the formless palace and pounced on it, trying to chew the jewels off. Unfortunately, after chewing for a long time, they couldn't even chew a single gem off. Their eyes seemed to have turned into the shape of jewels, and their instincts as giant dragons kept surging. My God, ghosts, there's ghosts here. Suddenly, Wales the slow dragon couldn't help but scream in fear. He immediately noticed the formless dragon Theodore, who was bound by the soul-binding chains. He trembled in fear because the formless dragon Theodore's appearance was too terrifying and eerie. The other young dragons and Yi Mengyao also saw the formless dragon Theodore. What's there to be afraid of? As the saying goes, dragons don't have guts. This is the formless dragon Theodore. Fate Dragon Betty slapped Wales on the head, exasperated that he didn't live up to her expectations. However, she was also scared out of her wits when she first saw the formless dragon Theodore. It took her a long time to get used to it after Xia Ping's explanation. After all, children were still quite afraid of ghosts, and the young dragons were no exception. Big sister, this is the formless dragon Theodore. It's a ghost, and it's been dead for God knows how long. Not only did the slow dragon Wales not feel relieved, but he was even more afraid. Everyone knew that the formless dragon Theodore had died a long time ago. Now that it had appeared here, if it wasn't a ghost, what else could it be? When the other dragon whelps saw this, they retreated in fear. Hee, a bunch of brats. The invisible dragon Theodore looked at the group of dragon whelps with disdain. He was extremely arrogant. What's there to be afraid of? This Theodore didn't die, but turned into a specter dragon when he died. In fact, he's become a special dragon, just like us. The dragon of fate, Betty explained. I see. The young dragons were instantly relieved. So it was a special dragon. That made sense. But why is he tied up? Why is he chained up? Time Dragon Caesar asked curiously. It's simple. The formless dragon Theodore is a big baddie who wants to wreak havoc everywhere. So the adult dragons tied him up and imprisoned him formless dragon Kalidas said. The adult dragons are so powerful. I heard that the formless dragon Theodore is an invincible dragon. He was the grand elder of the dragon god shrine in ancient times, and now he's been captured by an adult dragon. The young dragons looked at Xia Ping with admiration. That's nothing. After the formless dragon Theodore died, he became a specter dragon. What a waste. Even I could capture him. Fate Dragon Betty crossed her arms and looked at the formless dragon Theodore with disdain. A bunch of brats. What are you talking about? How dare you talk about the great formless dragon Theodore like that? When I was still alive, I was awe-inspiring. Your ancestors hadn't even appeared yet, and yet you dare speak to me like that? The formless dragon Theodore was furious. It was one thing to be defeated by Xia Ping, but Xia Ping was a near-ancient saint after all. It was only natural that he couldn't beat him. But these brats dared to look down on him. Damn it,